ripoffs. They are everywhere when you go looking for them. Every single movie you can probably conceptualize likely has a ripoff in some form. Some are maybe homages, some are crazy coincidences. These are probably not. We've covered many terrible movies over the years, and instead of giving you a 60-episode super compilation of every terrible movie we've covered, let's split this one up into the category of ripoffs. You'll probably recognize where the source material comes from. Enjoy this fever dream of very likely bad cinema. Ah, the Terrible Luck movie. Remember this old project? I remember this project vaguely. I remember seeing it advertised when I was briefly in LA, like a couple years back. That was all I ever saw, just one giant billboard on the side of a skyscraper and nary a trailer to really tell us what's going on. And since this was back in 2022, I just kind of skipped it. Never got around to it, you know? This movie really only has one factoid attached to it that you may know. It's a John Lasseter thing. After being ousted from his own industry and away from the studio he founded, he went off to make his own project in its own little way, and we all just kind of side-eye it from the corner of the room, you know? Now, this movie was made with Sky Dance Animation, which was a very first since it was only just founded back in 2017, or do you know, by John Lasseter. Although he's actually only the head of animation, the actual president is apparently Holly Edwards. Anyway, you know, it's John Lasseter making his own project. The quintessential spin-off of a Pixar movie, and I'll be honest, I have not heard good things. So, let's get into this. Okay, this intro is literally just some soundtrack music from Sonic Advance 2. It's practically identical. So of course, this movie is gonna be all about luck, which is actually a bit of an interesting concept. In fact, actually, one of my favorite animation shorts I've ever seen is all about luck. I've covered it previously on the channel and everything. So seeing it done in a full theatrical release and with a key person involved, how bad can it be? Well, suddenly it's a music video. What is happening? There are animal people, things are just kind of thrown at your face. This is incredibly high on the retention time. And then we immediately cut to a couple of influencers. It's one of those, huh? Doing the classic thing of immediately not trusting its audience to hold their own attention by just gripping you as hard as it can immediately. And of course, going with the trendy, cool thing the kids do on the side.
You sure have bad luck, Sam Greenfield.
Can you be any more on the nose? And so then the movie goes on to showcase some lucky items. You know, if we're playing with luck, every single idea that's attached to luck is of course going to make an appearance. Fine, fair enough. To be honest, this whole movie kind of just looks like one big mobile ad. Does that make sense to anyone else? Like, it just seems like the budget visuals of a mobile ad plugged into a theatrical release. I feel like give it a few more seconds and you're going to see the tag to say divorce or pregnant. Anyway, they then go on to mention the old pick up a penny, it gives you good luck rhyme as we come along to learn a little bit of context for our plotline.
The social worker's waiting for you.
Yeah, shouldn't have hit those kids, Sam. But no, it turns out she is aging out because she's at an orphanage, forced away at the age of 18, never having the luck to ever be adopted by parents. And she's not sure she's really ready to move out yet. And following that, we then get a flashback to her very first visit at the orphanage at the Coleman house, whereby the mum's on the phone all the time, and it's all just one big sad montage. You gotta really feel for your main protagonist. Life just gets her down. What a lovely, cheery topic for a kid's movie. Though, to be fair, it's not the first time. Meet the Robinsons had a similar start.
We're gonna need some time to think about it.
And so, off Sam goes out to the real world for the very first time. She's had all sorts of homes in the past and none of them ever picked her up. So now she gets her own home, all by herself. It's a bittersweet ending that ends up as our beginning. As keys fall into the drain, she has a spare anyway, and the agency won't call for another month. She's officially sad and on her own. Fast forward to the bit you're actually waiting for in a movie like this, the big old montage of bad luck. This is the kind of stuff you expect to see out of an animated movie, just the world going chaotic. A little bit of over-the-top fantastical fun to show some bad luck in a character. It's what all the shorts obviously focus on with their very small runtime, and really, kids just crave Final Destination that they're allowed to consume and doesn't involve decapitation, let's be honest. And all sorts of things happen. Leaves are blown into the window, the bed shuts itself, they're late for the alarm, they're locked in the bathroom, the door handle comes out, the toaster doesn't work, the paper towel exists, collapse. The toast hits the wall. The socks don't match. Yeah, sure, that's really some incredible bad luck there, sure. This really is the highlight of the whole movie. It's probably the thing that was in the trailer the most. It makes sense, right? And honestly, it's nice to see. With the field of animation, you can do all sorts of incredible things, though the camera's not very crazy. It's quite standard, really. The vaguely creative ways they manage to make everything go wrong is nice. It's good jokes, it does a good bit, but does it get old? Because we've got 2 hours of this coming up. We'll see, but for now, I will praise this scene where I can. Hope for more, but also, I guess, not too much more. Already, I'm personally just seeing a hurdle with the concept alone. Following that, we have Sam at her very first job as a retail worker. Yeah, that really is the bad luck life for her. And then this proceeds to go on to yet another montage of all the bad luck going on. I mean, I guess that's what we crave, right? That is the children craving Final Destination again, just back-to-back scenes this time. I guess they're kind of trapped anyway. Now you've got the likes of glitter spilling everywhere, tapes rolling out everywhere, getting stuck on the shelf. There are cactuses all over her body. Hee hee hoo hoo ha ha. A little bit sadistic, I guess, but, you know, comedy. And so, of course, she's put on cart patrol. Yay! Technically, that's not the full bad luck experience. She wasn't fired on her first day, but hey, apparently Mr. Harmon's a very nice boss. So following that, we then come to Sam going immediately back to the orphanage. Forget the 1 month delay. She's now come to visit Hazel herself. Hazel is the little girl from the start of the movie, yet another orphan who's yet to go through 10 years of this. Whereby Hazel is sad, wondering if she'll never find her forever family. And that's that scene done. So following that, we then have Sam sitting on the road outside of a restaurant. Proper down in the dumps experience, you know? Whereby she meets a bad luck black cat. And I'll give another praise here. This is good animation. It may look like a mobile advert turned into a movie, and I still stand by that, but there's lots of, like, eye communication between these two that's, like, clearly, you know, built by talented animators. And out of the kindness of her heart, because she's the protagonist, she goes to give the cat part of her panini. I have a feeling cats aren't meant to eat red, but don't worry about it. The small details are in how things can go wrong, not cat diets, apparently. Anyway, with this, she goes on to monologue to the cat, grumbling about how Hazel's orphanage visit was getting cancelled, expositing about all of her thoughts rather than really showing it on show, and then wishing she could just get a little bit of luck. You know, any kind of nuance from a normal Pixar script was apparently lost in this rendition.
And if good luck was something you could actually hold in your hand, I'd give it all to Hazel.
God, why does she have to tell her entire life story? Why can't she just eat at a table like the rest of us? Anyway, finally, she finds a lucky penny, and of course, repeats that damn saying again.
Find a penny, pick it up.
And all day long, you'll have good luck.
This is some really dumbed down dialogue. I guess it's interesting to see a little bit of how the inner workings of Pixar work, because clearly it wasn't John Lasseter that polished up the scripts. Kind of feels like how your grandma would talk to you, you know? Always repeating the most basic of baby rhymes, and practically repeating them every conversation you have with them, you know? And so Sam wakes up the very next morning, whereby it's a montage of the opposite. Though not very montagey, but we'll allow it. Now the window slams shut in the morning. The socks, oh, they match. Wonderful. She did the washing. The toaster works. More than anything, I guess that's kind of neutral luck, but we'll take what we can get. And we come to learn that the lucky penny is actually a 4-leaf clover coin. Honestly, I actually quite like that. That's a nice, like, detail. Turns out it's gonna be a MacGuffin of an actual item, but still, I like the visuals of it, you know? Now, not only is the toast neutrally lucky, but on several tests of luck, the toast always lands exactly as wanted, as long as Sam holds on to this lucky coin. It is literally a lucky penny. And so, after doing the bottle flip challenge a few times with the toast slice, she requests to visit Hazel again for a surprise. Honestly, I'm surprised the orphanage is still letting her visit because this lady is obsessed. But before we get there, of course, it's time for a secondary montage of good luck as well. I feel like there needs to be a scene in between these scenes to at least space things out, but maybe that's me being critical. Wow, it's almost like that's my job. Whoa. But yes, now it's a montage of a great day at work, just the opposite of what we saw before. Kind of just repeating the same elements again, but sure. Now she can throw around boxes for maximum efficiency. She can be as reckless as she wants, but it all works out. It's all just great. And then, despite having the very good luck charm on her that should make things work in her favor, she goes to the loo, loses the coin down the toilet, where it's barred behind an automatic sensor. I actually kind of like this bit where she's sneakily trying to grab it because the sensor is her villain, I guess, but she loses it anyway. My question is though, is this intentional? It might be because I'm too corrupted because of the amount of mobile ads I've witnessed, but is this sexual? There's a lot of butt to the camera in this scene, you know? And I feel like there's a weird vibe, even just the fact that it's a scene of her going to the toilet. I'm not gonna say it's intimate, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe? Anyway, as if this is a Groundhog Day experience, the day just loops perfectly to the next scene once again. I guess we're just kind of cutting corners for the animation backgrounds, maybe. Whereby Sam is now rambling to the cat, who's appeared again, only for them to turn around with...
What? You flushed my penny down the toilet!
Yes, the cat is a Scottish talking cat. Never trust an animal in an animated movie. They all can talk anyway. Going for that Disney princess vibe, I guess, where you've got your female protagonist and they've always got an animal companion. Just this one also talks as well. Surprise, surprise, it's now time for a chase sequence now that we've learnt of the cat's secret. And again, this is a great display of some luck montaging. I'm still a bit bothered that they're all so combined close together, but we'll allow it. Sam is chasing after the cat and there's practically an entire marathon in the way of her, with all the things going wrong for her and right for the cat. Her shoe gets stuck to some gum, the cat can climb onto umbrellas, she's stuck to a crane with a branch in her bag, the cat practically floats everywhere with all the luck in the world. Until finally, after all sorts of blips and blaps, Sam lands in the dumpster. With the cat thinking that it's finally gotten away, it gives a report, creates this giant green portal, I guess, in the ground, jumps to another dimension. Oh, this has gone off topic very quickly. And the girl jumps in with her. Ooh, decapitation. Now that is unlucky. Guess the kids really do crave Final Destination. So yeah, now suddenly there's a whole new dimension? Aliens? The girls manage to get away onto the ship, whereby we learn a little bit of a tip from the cat's origins.
In Scotland, black cats are considered very lucky, thank you very much.
And we come to learn that the coin was not gifted by the cat earlier, it was dropped. And then to fill out the lucky vibes even more, leprechauns make an appearance. Yes, it's gonna be one of those movies. I was once told that leprechauns are kind of a problematic figure, but I don't know. Does this put a bad taste in people's mouths? Or is it a genuine good use of the luck theme? I genuinely don't know. But I do know that's kind of pushing it as well. Anyway, story beats ensue. We learn there is a penny depot. The cat learns that he's brought Sam with her, and they agree to heist into the place by going in disguise, since they're both in trouble after what's happened. And so, team up together they do. Sam has a button on the side to suggest using it as a coin instead, since the coin is missing down the toilet. And after Sam continues to ramble about her goals and aspirations in life, the cat turns around with...
I'll borrow it for my
For
friend.
your friend Hazel, yes, I've got that part. You said it like 100 times.
Wow, this cat knows how to critique writing as well. And so, with a mutual benefit in tow, they work together. So what are their names again? Ah yes, the girl is of course Sam, but this new Scottish black cat, their name is Bob. Seriously? Literally just Bob, the most basic and unattachable name you could think of? Listen, I know there are people called Bob in the real world, but to me it just seems like such a non-name, you know? It's a placeholder if nothing else. Why is a cat named Bob, you know? Gone are the days of Mike Wazowski or Lightning McQueen, I guess. Bob. Okay, and so now they go on to sneak back into the borders. With all the different cats who went out in the world cashing in their coins, apparently now with all breeds of cats. Why is it every breed and not just black cats? Are all cats lucky or bad luck? I thought only black cats were associated with that. Anyway, we also come to see the captain, who just kind of looks like an elf. Apparently they are a leprechaun, just these leprechauns are very elf-like. And in a very classic, boring, cliche way, Bob goes to try to distract the captain with all your classic kind of basic lines.
Do you like jokes?
They get through and off we continue. I'm just gonna warn you right now, we're gonna start seeing very little luck-based animation. You know, kind of the thing you wanna see the most. They combined what, like 4 montages all at the beginning, and now we're in the luck realm. It's just kind of gonna be a normal cartoon heist of visuals. Something to grab onto. So they invade into the locker room of leprechauns, whereby Sam is gonna pretend to be a leprechaun, despite being 5 times their height. Alright.
Dearie me, you're a big lass.
And also, somehow, it works. I guess there's comedy there, but this feels very basic in the comedy field, you know? Still, she pretends to be a leprechaun.
She met a Latvian guy down at the Hairy Lemon.
Aye, she did.
Cheers to Latvia for growing them big.
And again, why are they being kind of sexual about it? I feel uncomfortable, man. And with that, they get to head on out and witness the world. It's the land of luck. Look at it out there. Now there are animal people, but the pigs are bipedal. I guess this is the ending of Animal Farm. With these big rotatory systems and an idyllic, environmentally friendly world. Wow, brilliant. On the side as well, you've got the transport system that's just ripped out from the Blue Sky Studio Robots movie. And then, of course, there's Sam fumbling around in this world, hesitant to deal with all these tiny transport modes when she's so tall, and falling through it, of course. It's a hint of bad luck, but it's not quite the same, you know? To which the cat says, "There is no one lucky here. You need to blend in. Stop trying, because nobody does." Ah, how does that make any sense? You have to be lucky. Don't try. Just be lucky. Alright, we'll keep going anyway. And from there we come to meet our next friend, another leprechaun by the name of Jerry, who isn't surprised by Sam's height until later for some reason, and also blesses us with this.
Have you ever tried grilled cheese?
Riveting dialogue. Anyway, Sam is offered an experience, but she's worried she might be too unlucky for it. It's all about an opportunity to grab a penny from the depot along the way, by getting to press her own. It's yet another sequence of luck, but it doesn't hit the same way. What we've got now is a little bit of this. You got some Irish violins going on in there, a whole lineup of leprechauns spinning around on this rotatory system of a room, grabbing pennies, pressing them in, and letting them be sucked up. All the while, Sam, of course, is trying to steal a button for herself, and naturally it all goes wrong. Slightly. It's not so much like a Final Destination's Rube Goldberg machine of mistakes, it's just like minor blips along the way that somehow cause mayhem in like the rhythm of it all, but it doesn't really hit the same. And then as a worst case scenario, the fake button of all things is the thing that gets incorporated near the end, and they're all gonna be spotted for it. Well, yeah, it's a sequence, you know? Losing steam very quickly now that we've hit the wall of this world, I guess. So following that, of course, Sam immediately reveals everything to Jerry. Jerry asks if they need any help, and she just says, yeah, hey, I'm not a leprechaun, if you couldn't tell from my 10 feet stature. There's no build-up of trust or developing their relationship over time. It's just immediately, hey, first leprechaun I've met. I am a human, and I have a bunch of emotional baggage we need to address and deal with. You want to help? And yeah, he does. He just does. We learn that there's the bad luck realm on the bottom of this whole world beneath the floor, and some hazmat suits are called in. This is basically just Bunny Monsters Inc. Like a hodgepodge of old animation tropes, cliches, and Pixar building blocks. This movie doesn't stand out as its own unique project. It feels like a very standard and mid-production. The world isn't that creative and inviting like the world of Monsters Inc. or Toy Story. In fact, the very fact that the cat immediately revealed itself by talking immediately loses any kind of influence that the Toy Story vibes had by always successfully hiding from humans. How interesting to see how far this movie can fall when you compare it to the super clean polish of an actual Pixar production. So there's a whole sequence where the leprechaun captain appears, immediately spots Bob and not the gigantic human, and then later on, Jerry learns that they used to hunt for lost coins left in the real world. There's apparently a clever little robot that collects it. So they had drones. They had drones for the real world, okay? But you need a good luck crystal to power it. This fantastical bunny drone. Don't know why batteries couldn't work, but I guess good luck energizes everything. This is, again, a Monsters Inc. thing. Screams are the only energy source used. They haven't invented electricity yet. And also as one other hurdle to this whole thing, apparently the control stick for this drone is somewhere else entirely as well. Just, you know, anything for a delay to split up a mission for a tiny project that's not that impactful, to be honest. And so the deal between Sam and the cat is back on. And so off they go. Once again, this is meant to be another sequence of, wow, look at that, this magical world. You've got the music in the background, sounding like it's something out of The Sims or something, but the fantasy of these visuals is not that magical looking. You've got some nice ideas plugged in, like the concept of right place, right time. You get to see where good luck is created, and how ideas are put onto an idea leaf and then passed on to the next floor, but like, it's not that investing. Wow, the idea leaves go to the pig foreman. Brilliant. But what is nice is also there's a dragon now. The CEO of Good Luck is a dragon. Again, I'm just kind of getting Monsters University vibes now, but sure, we'll go with it. She now has the ability to sniff out bad luck specks. And then she goes ahead to wink at Sam for some reason. It's not really addressed why she does this later. She doesn't recognize she was a human at all, just winking at a tall employee, apparently. We then come to see a little bit more of how the good luck world works, whereby 4 of the leaves become a good luck crystal and they try to grab one. And like there's a sequence, I guess, of Sam not quite having the good luck enough to handle it, but the cat can swat it down to grab it, you know, and it's like, this story isn't very hooking, you know? The highlights so far have been when you see crazy good luck and crazy bad luck. This kind of swatting at tiny mechanical things in the background that's not that fantastical just isn't very good. And more so than that, these good luck crystals don't just work alone, you need to get a randomizer to break out the idea within it. Yeah, whatever hurdles you can come up with.
You're saying luck is random?
Randomizer.
Yeah, okay, that's a theme, I guess. And then you learn of other things. There are ancient luck stones. They're kind of like the batteries of this world. There are luck lines that spread out of here and into the real world, like power cords controlling the world. And then you get news of things like roots and goblins create bad luck down below, and that's actually vaguely interesting. I don't really care about the engineering mechanics of good luck crystals, leaves, specks, and stones, and lines. But goblins? Show me the goblins, please. And so Jerry was en route to his task. He split off to go and find this bunny drone, and it was right next to the entrance again? Gosh, this is not hidden at all. This isn't a good place to write it at all. And Sam goes on to a control room where she gets to see everyone tracking luck all over the world.
That's one lucky grandma.
And again, the dialogue is just so dumbed down for the audience, just constantly commentating on what's going on screen in a way that's just condescending, I guess is the best way I can put it, really. But immediately, with all 3 pieces put into place, they go to control the bunny drone. And so the bunny drone goes out of the portal, out to the real world. None of the humans seem to question or spot it or do any kind of interacting with it. Meanwhile, Sam goes to spot that the camera is seen on the big screen and everything. Oh my god, they're about to be exposed. So what on earth could Sam possibly do to keep the distractions high, to not get in the way of all the other cat people? Well, of course it is. Remember the start of this movie? It's a sing and dance sequence. This, like, look at this. This is just bad, man. Like, it's so cringy and clearly plugged in as a retention beat. Is this a character trait from Sam? Is this a musical? I don't think it is. It's just a Deus Ex Machina that just feels so soulless and clearly just a checklist along the way. Thankfully, I'm immune because I'm a workaholic. Suddenly, the drone has got the penny. No idea how or where. I assume it was in the pipelines of the sewers. We didn't see it go underground or anything. We didn't see it do anything. It was only the map view we got to see because they didn't want to animate it, I guess. That could have been so interesting to see some camera motions around a drone. The fact it was just a GPS look the whole time is so cutting corners and uninteresting, man. So following that, the captain then makes a call to everybody, mentioning about the button trickery and how there's a penny thief within their mix, and the drone is back and covered in sewage. To which we get another delay in the form of the vacuums, taking it all away. Also, I'm not just going to gloss over the fact they just outright have a big old sludge of brown mixture to make all the kids laugh at the fact that it's, you know, covered in poo. What a lowbrow form of comedy. Anyway, the plot continues with the idea that they can still get the coin at the in-between, learned through a phone call. And, like, again, there's so little interesting elements anymore. The directing is gone at this point. The phone calling is just boring shots of listening, you know? It's not even a good split screen. The luck really is the most interesting part of this movie's concept, and we see so little of it. And so Sam goes to make it to the in-between.
What button did you press?
BL, basement level.
Is that not the below? Alright. And so they take the elevator down to BL1. But oh no! Don't take us to BL1! BL1 stands for Bad Luck 1! Whoa, not basement level 1. It's like a basement, but not the basement. Wow! What is vaguely interesting is that the gravity shifts and goes in reverse in the below. But that's about it. Because, like, this whole elevator direction trick looks nice, but only really in live action because physics doesn't actually work that way. In animation, you can do whatever you want. It's a rare display I've seen where a shot actually looks better in live action and animation. And by copying the formula of what someone else has done, you've actually made a worse project in the field that is more creative. Incredible. Now, suddenly, Sam's bad luck locks in as she's left out of the elevator and it disappears without her, with the cat giving her notes on how to climb back up to the in-between. They reject the idea of just bringing back the elevator with another button press. No, just forget about it. Or you could just jump down / up the elevator shaft to make progress again, but hey, well, that's too logical, right? But okay, I will give them this. Now we get to see a second side of the world that could be interesting. Now suddenly, there are goat people. Brilliant! As well as a little bit of the roots and goblins along the way. And as a parallel to the bad luck experience in the good luck transport system world, now we get to see a bridge breaking and the bull falling the wrong way. The roller coaster is out and buckets hitting workers. All to swing us into the tube that leads to Tower 13. See, I vaguely like the idea that Sam could be lucky in the bad luck realm or something, but it's not really expanded here. It's just the transport system goes wrong, but just about right for Sam, and there's something here that could have been better, but it's not. And it's a shame, man. But now that Sam's made it to Tower 13, where she can find her way back to the in-between, we get to see a bunch of title doorways. Wow, look at all of them. Look at the creative prowess of some good bad luck related comedy.
Smell it but can't find it. It's a wet one. Ugh, gross.
It's all poop jokes. All of them. It's just different versions of jokes about poop. This is John Lasseter's legacy, especially after being cancelled. And so Sam finds a shaft that she can follow, briefly getting stuck inside of the pipe, again with a shot that's showing a lot of before she finally drops down to dodge some debris that's in the way, jumping through to this big space. For bad luck is just a mirror image of the good luck. Okay, you gonna do anything with that theme, or? Honestly, I still thought she was gonna be like the queen of the bad luck realm. We didn't even meet anyone in the bad luck segment there. We just sort of speed ran through all the hallways. But what we do get to meet is the one character in the in-between, Jeff. Jeff the Unicorn. He's the engineer behind the randomizer machine, showing off that bad luck machine that he built that then goes into the randomizer, and explaining that this machine was needed because bad luck attracts more bad luck, so bad luck specs often tend to clog up. It's a whole... Do you care? I don't care. After that, we then get a whole bunch of exposition.
I no longer go by Jeff. I have reverted to my birth name. Heimdall!
Yeah, so what we come to learn from this backstory is that not only does he have an old name, but the CEO dragon was their one true love. And that they had to clean out the clogs by hand back in the day when a pipe exploded, and the CEO was the one to help him out when he was bombarded with bad luck specs, I guess. And that it took 4 months to recover because of how much bad luck can linger. They turned bad luck into good luck, the CEO became fearful of bad luck, then she broke his heart, and now they're both alone. You know, that kind of would have been nice with some visuals, to be honest, not just a unicorn talking the whole time. Also, an interesting detail, they explained that he changed his name to Jeff halfway through. That his name is no longer Jeff, and he changed it to Heimdall, but the movie's gonna continue calling him Jeff for the rest of the runtime. So, like, why, for one, is there a change of name, and then why not respect the new name that was brought up? This is a 2022 movie, you know? So anyway, bringing out the plotline again, Bob makes a reappearance now, and they go to find the bunny drone that's in this in-between. Heimdall goes to pull it out, and we come to learn...
Oh, I sent it up to the penny depot, back into circulation.
So really, it was all just one big waste of time. I get that the point is to witness the world, but also, we're kind of speed running the world at the same time. None of the deliveries going on is a satisfying form of progress. So now the conclusion is that Sam says we gotta go to the CEO dragon. If the dragon helped a random engineer, she'll help a total leprechaun, of course.
I can't give up on Hazel. Or you, Bob.
Ah, isn't that nice? I don't believe her. In fact, she's been going solo for like the last 10 minutes. And so, here we are now with the dragon CEO. Immediately, she's able to get right to the reception area and request a viewing with the dragon. And we come to learn the dragon is actually allergic to bad luck specs. Before the CEO calls out bad luck as sadness and destruction manifest. Not really the best traits to have when you control the world that is 50% bad luck.
Can you imagine dealing with bad luck every single day of your life?
I feel like my nose is dented with how heavy they are on the nose. What I think is also interesting on the second half of this scene is, like, she goes on to ramble about how good luck is joy and hope manifest and yada yada, but it's in the direction for the cameras in this movie that's been very weird. In this scene specifically, it's directed as if, like, the characters are actors who are incredibly stellar performers. This is filmed like one big long take of a monologue of prowess, but it's just animation. Again, it's like they're mimicking character tricks from live action, but it doesn't translate as well into animation. These characters aren't moving with all of their cheekbones and their eyes. There's a little bit of eye acting earlier with the cat in the panini scene, but this is just standard animation with a camera that's overzealous on them. It's strange. Anyway, Sam, after explaining the whole thing, receives another coin, so she'll be back to her normal self. And by that, I mean secretly lucky, but not really. And then they linger on again with another heavy-handed theme of how the last person the dragon helped needed 4 months for the bad luck to stop lingering.
They were the best 4 months of my life.
Yeah, we get it. And then we've come to our turning point. Our main protagonist finally has the thing they wanted. They finally got that coin of good luck so they can give it to Hazel and yada yada. But Bob is now in trouble. I still hate the fact his name is Bob, man. Bob is finally taken by the captain for interrogation, seeing as his paw prints are all over the button. Why exactly they didn't come to that conclusion earlier and instead interrogated several other leprechauns first, I have no idea, but you know, delays are delays. This movie's not really got a lot of content, let's be honest. So Sam jumps onto the car and returns the coin to Bob, saying, here's the one you lost. Retroactively abandoning Hazel, leading for her to be the very next villain of Meet the Robinsons, I guess. And so with a whole new plan of action, and that captain conflict immediately over, by the way, they're gonna go and help Hazel in a different way with only 1 hour left.
We're gonna turn off bad luck.
The plan is to stop the mixer that Heimdall has created, create a giant clog of bad luck, so that none of the bad luck will go into the randomizer, and there will be nothing negative in the real world. Also, Heimdall is just now randomly exercising. I guess he's just written out of being a hurdle, I guess. What classical storytelling. And so, they do. The machine turns off, and we see good luck all over the globe map. Now, if Hazel's visit goes well, with only good luck going into the world, she can finally find her forever family. So then, my question is, so now the visit isn't cancelled for Hazel? Or is this an entirely new one? Are these parents flip-flopping based on the luck that's going out in the world? Like, what's going on here, logically? Sam now is content with her time and heading back to the real world, hoping she can do something good with her luck, and hoping her bad luck won't get in the way anymore. But then...
It's coming from the in-between. There must be something wrong.
Well, yeah. There's just one worker down there anyway. Suddenly, by asking for too much of a good thing, everything, of course, goes wrong. The bad luck clogs up and then explodes into the randomizer. Now, only bad luck is going into the real world. Hazel's visit is cancelled again. Her would-be parents certainly are a flip-flopping flannel of something floppy. It even goes so far as to say that the good luck stones themselves break. Clovers are shriveled up, and the pigs can't create good luck ideas anymore. Now, all of the good luck pennies in the world have become contaminated. And even Bob's extra super secret penny that he has inside of his collar doesn't work either. But wait a minute. Why does the cat have another hidden coin inside of his collar, you may ask? Well, it's because it was a secret. And in fact...
I'm English, actually.
Yes, I tactically didn't mention this, but you might have noticed yourself. The cat is Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg isn't Scottish. Meaning, if you have even a vague idea of who the main celebrity casting slot's heritage is, you can predict this kind of plotline a mile away. Oh my god, the English celebrity is English! Like, I kinda like the idea, but it's wasted on a poor casting choice, to be honest. Turns out the black cat isn't lucky, it's actually bad luck, and a coin is needed to get back to neutral. But also, this super secret coin was corrupted anyway, so it's kind of just like a waste of a reveal so that everyone gets upset with him. I don't know, man. How do you mess this up? It's like meant to be a plot twist, but it has like no impact in any way. And so now, only bad luck spreads. The luck lines, they fade away. The human world and luck world have been severed for good. There must be a way to reconnect, but without good luck, there is no way. Oh, but Sam has to go home. Oh my god.
You're a human?
Yes.
God, I could have never guessed. You never should have come here. You know, it's a whole thing. It's the end of the second act, so it's got to get sad, but it also just doesn't, well, I don't know. So everyone decides, let's banish the both of them, but also, they can't be banished. You've specifically severed the world between the luck world and the real world, you know? And so, at the pit of all of this drama, finally now we have a heart-to-heart with Sam and Bob. Still hate that his name is Bob, but whatever. Not even Robert or Robbie. I didn't even expect Bobbert is fine to me. But anyway, what does follow now is a couple of lines that are genuinely alright. This is the point where the two characters are praising each other for pros that they have about each other's character, right? And there are some nice lines in there.
Your first instinct is to share, like the tasty meat bread, and you'll endure the worst bad luck ever to make it happen. Your friend Hazel doesn't need good luck, because she has you.
Though also, now that I've just listed them out, they're actually not that great. Like, it's okay. It's decent. But, you know, yeah, there's your heart-to-heart. There's your turnaround. Time for something to happen now. So what are they gonna do to get themselves out of this situation? Where are they gonna get some good luck? Well, by the logic that there's some good luck down in bad luck. I think this was established earlier. I don't remember. Are you paying as much attention as I am? Probably. Oh, so apparently this is something that Sam witnessed early on. While running down in the bad luck realms, there's a brief shot of them, I guess, playing basketball or being around a green light. That's what we're bouncing off of. And so down to bad luck they go. And so we come to a furnace-like door. A new place we haven't seen before, as apparently...
I must have come in the back door last time.
Alright, and now, only now, do we actually get to see some of the roots and goblins from the bad luck realm. I said that we saw them earlier. I'm not actually sure if we did. Now we do. And it turns out it's one big bar. It's got that classic Pixar soundtrack feel. And what do you know? Listen to one of the very first lines in this scene.
Bob, where the heck you been, brother?
The bartender is that same old Pixar VA classic, John Ratzenberger. Although it's not just a cameo this time. This guy keeps on yapping for the final 15 minutes of this movie, as we come to learn that the cat was a regular at this bar back when they were in bad luck, to the point he's even got his own bar stool, and he's welcomed by them all. So I guess Sam does get to be queen in bad luck. It's just kind of crammed in at the end now here. It's a whole thing. What we come to learn is that occasionally some good luck is floated down here and collected into the lucky shot, so that all of these goblins and roots who have dealt with bad luck their entire lives finally get to have a hint of joy in their lives. There's a weird tone of segregation and, like, I guess almost species oppression that doesn't really get addressed. They don't really want to touch on it, but there's something here. Makes you wonder why a goblin has never tried to, like, invade into good luck realm. Like, why not just get in the elevator, experience some good luck, and then go back down? It's a genuinely nice atmosphere down here that I kind of wish they could have expanded more, but instead we're just going to get it for, like, the next 15 minutes straight. That's pacing. And so they grab the jar of lucky speck dust, taking away from the lower class bad luck species the one piece of joy that they have. And though they say that the CEO won't be happy to see them for being the cause of all of this issue in the first place, they will be happy to see Heimdall. And so off he pops, showing up.
Unicorn! Jeff! It has been 100 years.
This feels a little extra furry, somehow. This unicorn just seems strangely sexually open. Is that in character design, or have I just been on the internet too long? The CEO dragon then goes on to burn all of these specks to create a bunch of luck crystals. 1 bad luck and 2 good lucks. That's funny. The good luck one has a better reaction rate. That's cool. Oh no, that was intentional? Oh, okay. So it turns out now, the dragon intentionally created 2 good luck stones so that only those could be put in the machine and create a world of endless good luck only.
You said it yourself, Sam. Without bad luck, your world could look just like ours.
So the CEO is the villain now? But what she's saying kind of makes sense. But it turns out no, with Sam and her sense of high horsisms, decides to jump into the machine after the CEO with a full confrontation. You can't just have 2 good luck stones out in the world. That would be too much of a good thing. You have to have some bad luck in the realm because there's good in the bad luck. But there literally isn't. There's camaraderie around bad luck. That's about it. Is that the theme? Because I didn't get that theme from the pub really down below. I think everyone would be a lot happy with a lot more good. Anyway, okay, sure. On goes the sequence within the machine with its big turning clock-like motions, where Sam goes on to ramble that it's because of bad luck that she got to experience everything she got. She got to meet the people she met because of bad luck. And really, bad luck has its values as well. It's like a nice theme. I get that would be the message by the end. I'm just not convinced, I'll be honest. The movie's done a bad job explaining that.
I blamed bad luck for everything that went wrong in my life.
Yeah, and you'd be right. Was it not the mop's fault for trapping you in the bathroom that one time? Like, what? You're gonna tell me it taught you how to use a credit card successfully? The message at the end of this scene is, don't fear bad luck because you have each other, and that makes you the luckiest I know. So, you're lucky enough, don't take more good luck. I don't know, it's just, And so with that, they go for both. Congratulations, guys, you're now also the cause of anything that goes wrong in the real world as well. Nice one, gang. And so, off the machine goes. Again, isn't the clogger machine still down? I don't think they fixed the clogger machine, so that's not gonna... Alright, and suddenly it all bursts out everywhere. We see Good Luck spraying everywhere up top. I don't believe any of it. Now, suddenly, the rainbow lines come back on, and it only looks like Good Luck to me. Sam has a look on the monitors in the control room and sees, hey, the parents, they finally finished flip-flopping. They've come to visit Hazel. Oh, look, it's Good Luck again, ruining the purpose and message of the movie wholeheartedly. How? How did the short do a better job than the movie? The short even gets to the point of there's a value in bad luck, but no. The CEO then goes on to visit the bad luck bar, somehow not being allergic to absolutely everything that goes on, bringing down yet another good luck crystal, only giving the working class a hint of joy since they don't get to be entitled to all the good luck as they have decreed.
So, come on back.
Does the captain even do anything in this plot? I don't think so. I think she just gave up halfway through the movie. And they're basically just like, thank you guys for sending all the bad luck our way once again. We wouldn't change a single thing. Let's crowd around this basketball hoop. It's the only source of joy. Other than, I assume, the alcoholic beverages sold at this bar. Bob is then asked to stay in Good Luck. They create Bob his very own lucky penny. And Bob finally gets the lucky life he's always wanted. Although he also already had it because he had the coin for a little bit of time for his 9th life. To which Bob rejects anyway. Messaging. Bob will stay friends with everybody, but wants to spend the rest of their days with Sam in her world. They finally found their forever family. So, you're telling me that, from an outsider's perspective, like from the perspective of the receptionist at the orphanage, the bad luck lady ends up getting a cat as the crazy, lonely cat lady archetype instead. Brilliant. Also, the CEO just isn't allergic to being down here. Alright. Jump ahead to 1 year later. Sam is still working at retail. The luck never really improved for her. Sam becomes the manager. Wow, what great luck you've been bestowed. But I do like this one gag of a civilian accidentally hearing the cat talking.
Map says 9 minutes, but we'll take the shortcut.
We come to learn Hazel was in fact taken on by those parents. Bob is out here speaking to Hazel now, and also the entire adopted family, apparently. Toy Story logic be damned. And Hazel concludes that she's really lucky she found these guys. Because remember, there's only value in good luck. Even in the bad luck, you make good luck out of it. So it's good luck you're after. Right. And they cycle away. Hazel stays over at Sam's tiny, cramped bad luck apartment. And we get a final note.
You might say that bad luck led me to the luckiest thing in the world. Or was it good luck?
That's exactly my point! That ruins the entire message! And that was The Terrible, Pixar's knockoff luck movie. Clearly, John Lasseter founded some of the greatest Pixar movies, making a lot of those classics, but what makes a movie a classic is clearly a well-oiled machine. The group effort, and whatever John Lasseter contributed might have been good story pieces, but it wasn't a good script, because without everybody else involved, this just looks so murky, mid, and I might even say, bad. Some people are bestowed bad luck, and some people wholeheartedly earn their lack of luck. Skydance Studios are said to be making 4 other projects going forwards, one this year called Spellbound, one next year called Puku, a ray gun movie, and an untitled Jack and the Beanstalk project. Whether any of them will have anything close to a rousing success story, we'll see. I don't have the highest of hopes, but they've all got John Lasseter attached, so maybe we shouldn't even financially support these movies anyway. And again, I didn't mention this, the whole hooking point of this movie is how we get to see these Rube Goldberg good luck and bad luck moments. There was like, what, 5, 6 scenes out of all the rest of it? Man, the concept is so interesting, and they just flubbed it. And so much of it comes down to the direction, and John Lasseter himself just falling flat on his own concept. Wahoo. Oh, it's UglyDolls. Simultaneously that thing that nobody really remembers, and yet, looking at the footage, it seems like something we're just all so familiar with. I mean, regardless of the title or any real information on the actual storyline, you can already tell this is just a shallow, generic, trend-hunting kids kind of film. But of course I'm gonna get all into it anyway, because that's my life now. In fact, oddly enough, when searching my name in YouTube's search bar, UglyDolls is a thing that already appears. I guess it just makes too much sense for someone like me. So for those of you that are blessed to be unaware, UglyDolls is a 2019 animated musical film dragging the likes of Kelly Clarkson, Nick Jonas, Pitbull, and Robert Rodriguez again into another shameless cash grab that's naturally not given them favorable reviews. It's hopping on that bandwagon of trolls, spliced with the theming of animated kid toys like Toy Story, or with the unique spin of making it all about being ugly. Oh, so obviously ugly. Let's see how terrible it can really be, huh? Alibaba Pictures, huh? I guess that explains the immediate blandness of the content, marketing to that extra billion tickets that need a very set of rules to be viewable to. How thematic for a film about mass-produced factory toys to be made in China. So we get to see a little bit of how the factory works, with magical machines doing all the processes and UglyDolls being cast aside and into Uglyville. How did those mistakes ever happen? Forget about it. This is a musical, remember? So of course our main protagonist immediately gets out of bed singing about how today could be the day, and how they want to be chosen for a kid, all the while being a tad insecure about being
short and stubby, and my gosh, look how much you weigh!
A nice message for the kids right up front, huh? Anyway, this pink protagonist is Moxie, and she's always enthusiastic. And when seeing the mayor that day, he explains that the supposed big world and children being available is all just stories. Oh, and then the song just keeps going for a while. All that matters in life is apparently partying, and it couldn't get better than this. And then, like a regular occurrence, a new arrival is incoming, and they look alright. It's Lemonhead from before, now named Wedgehead. And that kind of brings up the elephant in the room with this film. I mean, obviously, it's so much of an elephant I have to mention it this early on. You can already tell the theming here is going to be all about ugliness and perfection, but all of these characters aren't really ugly. They're just abstract shapes. And even then, they're textured to be soft and fluffy, perfectly rounded in their curves, and at most they're missing, like, what, an eye that's charmingly shown with stitch lines instead? We'll get to more of this a little bit later on, but man, it just completely defeats what little purpose this film has.
Isn't that right, gibberish cat?
Is that a joke? That's the quality we're playing with here? This film's only a year old. It's not even like outdated bad jokes. It's just flat today jokes. So Ugly Dog, this guy, steals Wedgehead away to show off the town to her and us, rapping away because it's the cringy man himself, Pitbull, and this is the same song sequence still, just spread across this whole opening. But it all ends off in a food fight to check off that list to your classic boring kids film, and then literally skimming the budget by removing the entire background. Get used to this look. A 6-minute song sequence to start us off, because the creators do not believe kids have the attention span for something like this. So with the mayor concerned of Moxie getting her heart broken from her dream, this bat guy is sent in to talk to her. Meanwhile, Moxie is still singing away, with like a whole day through apparently, with a sad version of the same motif now. My god. Oh, and the sun is a ball of wool because it's got to be on brand, and the moon is half a button. Is it always crescent, or like does it grow more button pieces to be a full, I think too hard about these films. So Red Bat Guy here chats over tea with her the next day, and Moxie worries over reality since there's
With no evidence, no proof.
And while I'd love to poke a joke about, your classic religious debates and all that, I legit found this online.
My imperfections are something to be celebrated. I mean, that is straight brainwashing propaganda. Satanic.
Sure, we can all agree it's bland, ironic, and a waste of content, and certainly not something that kids should be exposed to as the only form of entertainment they should be given. But did you ever think this film was the Antichrist? It's corruptingly LGBT, or that it's clearly connected to Satanism? This take is far too spicy for a film as plain as this. Yikes. It's just because they said it's called The Big World, and that it's, almost an afterlife. But it's just a dumb kids film. But anyway, also, there is proof in this world, Moxie, because there's the obvious hole in the wall where people come from. But man, this film just doesn't really think. So the whole joke of this scene is that Batboy here doesn't actually have any advice and just kinda wings it. This drags on for a very long while, and none of it is really written the smartiest. But with Moxie dedicated to the idea of leaving, because of T leaves means she must leaves, she soon scarpers across town and takes all of her friends with her, and they literally just join her immediately with no convincing or anything logical really going on. I guess this film really wants to get going. All these characters have next to no substance. I'll let you guess which one's the case. So they hobble to that hole, and there's almost a gimmick here with Bobo here having Animal Crossing pockets for convenient tools, but even as a Deus Ex Machina device that totally is baiting for something to happen in the future, it's never properly used in the film. It's like establishing something and then doing nothing with it. So after a lot of fluff, the gang eventually reach that old factory. Cue the opportunity for another generic pop song that really kind of masks the fact that if you actually looked around, this would literally look like something out of a horror movie. I mean, are you kidding me? Just look at all these freaking creepy humanoid doll things. But now they make it to the Institute of Perfection for doll type number 12, and they all look humanoid. Because if we focused on any of the other doll types, this film would realize how out of touch it was and how unugly all the ugly dolls are. Oh, and also it's another song sequence. Ugh, skip. And we get more exposition about how this world works. It's basically quality assurance for perfection. But first, there's a scanning machine, because the one from before wasn't enough, apparently. It's kind of creepy how it just sort of slaps on an entire skin, but I like the gag of them all being given the role of model.
I'm an individual, exactly like the rest of you.
So everyone freaks out on their ugly designs, and Ugly Dog gets to flirting. Why is this a thing? And naturally, we have our Mean Girls type of trio, all British of course, and the fourth one, who's totally not a friend and conspicuously has an American accent. Forgetting that, it's time for some Lou exposition. You know exactly what form this is gonna take. Looking like a cross between Draco Malfoy and that Fallout mascot, perfectly Aryan with glutes as tight as mine, singing about everyone's ugly blemishes and really railing into the Ugly Dolls, except they're upset about this when they're literally from a place called Uglyville. Ugly Dog literally named himself Ugly Dog. This is all just stupid. And though it's a point that Lou is pointing out the most minute of flaws, even on the Ugly Dolls, what's the issue? The dog has one eye that matches his design, Wage has a perfectly normal face, just fangs, and Moxie has just one tooth issue and doesn't get her head thing. It's just hair! Where are the more impactful blips, like a bigger nose, crooked teeth, crossed eyes, or even a cleft palate, you know? The message of the film is taken so mildly that it effectively has the opposite effect, as you just know that this whole design was perfect up for the production of the film. So everyone's deterred except Moxie, who's determined to take on the training for perfection anyway, and Lou accepts, learning there's a whole town of uglies.
Because it doesn't get better than this.
That's the name of our song.
Oh boy. So Lou returns home and sings some more about wanting to crush them all for his empire. Don't expect a real reason why. The uglies get their home in a shed, perfect for them, but their escort Mandy is less ecstatic as she accidentally leaks the news that she needs glasses to see. She isn't perfect.
Lots of dolls wear glasses in Uglyville, even Five-Eyed Steve.
No they don't. They specifically don't wear glasses. I've checked for most of the characters and none of them have 5 eyes either.
For sure, teaching kids that glasses aren't ugly is at least faintly on track, though you still shouldn't really expect to see them much at all this film. Mandy keeps them hidden pretty much the whole runtime. At the same time, the Mean Girls trio are actually totally spies now, sneaking into Uglyville. The jokes through all of this are just abysmal overtalking, but I like the whistling tune. It reminds me of the good old days of Mario Kart Double Dash. And one unneeded scene about one of them stealing from the others to prove they're really bad guys later, and they kidnap Ox, the mayor.
You'll never catch me.
Good thing for that random rake.
Huh, I like that one. Training time, and actually I like the concept here. Lou's talking all about avoiding messes, and though kids like to get messy, for the toys, if you get messy, you get the washing machine. And each time you come out a little less perfect. All of this is genuinely true and kind of interesting to hear this perspective. And then, of course, cue the montage. Naturally with some mainstream cover as well. It's a shame because I almost kind of can get into this world if it wasn't so basic. Also, Ox has now made an arrival and Lou has already met him. Dun dun dun.
They know each other?
He just said, Lou,
keep up.
And though the Uglies are now physically prepped up after one montage later, they want to work on their visuals. Good job Mandy comes in for just the occasion, somehow, luckily. I swear, half this film is just music sequences. No wonder I'm getting through this quickly. And this one's gone so far to literally have no background the entire time. It could be slapped onto some kind of Snapchat advert and it would fit the bill. And now they're pretty, right? Now with fake teeth, outfits, and hair that makes them look more nerdy than they did before. Oh yeah, and also, Mandy's still not happy about herself in the mirror. And after confronting Lou, he still tells them that they're ugly dolls underneath and that they'll never pass the final gauntlet. The kind of final exam. And Ox is now here to explain. So it turns out Ox once appeared here by sheer luck and was actually friends with Lou, and after being outcast by everyone else, Lou helped in his escape, where Ox learned that they are in fact all rejects chucked away by humans beforehand. Uglyville is the detour to a better life. There's some plot holes here, but we'll touch on that in a bit. Though Lou tells them to never return or it's recycling for all of them. How friendly to his good old friend Ox, huh? And Uglyville is devastated, and you can tell because the saturation is down.
Well, at least they got one relatable point.
Say, yo, wake up. Or don't.
Oh yeah, why is there a unicorn alarm clock guy in this town? You'd think he was a main character, but I guess he's just cute bait. We saw him earlier in as well, and I like, what? Also, like, that's the epitome of not ugly. He just has one eye. Oh, God. Anyway, the sadness doesn't last long as Mandy shows up with a pep talk, mentioning people and thoughts that she physically cannot know because she wasn't there for those moments, and ending it off with, what do you know, another song number. Now taking us into the void of space because this film really hates having any real logical backgrounds. It's one of those be yourself songs. I don't really need to explain this one. And then the Totally Spies kidnap them both, and Lou catches them in the tubing, now with a plan to chuck them into recycling. Without Moxie, no one will be determined to come back. Also, this pipe is now vertical. It wasn't when Ox went in, I think, but well, whatever. Meanwhile, all the friends are feeling guilty and the mayor chooses to talk to Moxie, discovering that she's gone. How do they work out what's actually happening to line up the dots? Through a fax machine that I don't think we've even seen before. It's just panically reprinting the scene. This is one of the weirdest Deus Ex Machina things I think I've ever seen. Why did the film choose this route of anything? Anyway, Moxie and Mandy are now in recycling. It's time for your Toy Story 3 furnace scene. Now with a conveyor belt that they're clearly running faster than, and the whole tension of the scene is stopped before it's even started, as everyone in Uglyville immediately makes an appearance, wedging themselves up to pause the carnage, which is actually kinda new and smart, and then the entire town of Uglyville was somehow notified, willing to help, and made the time to coordinate and show up too to pull them out of the oven. Well, that's literally all the filmmakers could come up with his pocket gimmick. Just 2 jokes and no real story weight. Nice. And as they're dragged out, the machine just inexplicably shuts down, because that's how machines work.
I'm lucky you got that thing on your head. Whatever it is.
It's just freaking hair! And so they decide to make a stand, fighting for their flaws instead. It's time for the final gauntlet, and they all crash the party. And for some reason, Lou just accepts this. He says he'll run alongside them. Alright, he just has to make them lose. And so it begins, getting a real Monsters Inc. Toy Story reality vibe, but now with a robo-dog.
It's alright, guys. Slick Dog's got this.
Oh, God. So the whole theme of this whole sequence is Lou betrays someone into a real-life obstacle and the Uglies are the one to save them on the way. Everything about stains and blemishes aren't really being tested here for the final exam, and now I think about it, there wasn't really another lecture other than messiness. Damn. This is just an obstacle course to show off some faint concepts, like, you know, being sucked up by a Hoover. That's a first. And as Lou attempts to win for himself rather than sabotage, as he's said before, one final hurdle arrives. A robo baby, with Lou being the one to kick the baby to unhand him, and as everyone is ready to finish, Moxie is the one to turn around for the now crying robo baby. you can see where this is going. Moxie is the one to calm the baby, and Lou escapes by himself. Is this red circle a bad thing now? Why is Lou upset about this too? Anyway, it's revealed that love and compassion is a doll's true purpose, and so everybody wins. So then, how has training worked for every past generation, and how did nobody notice that the training was useless when they succeeded? What a waste of everybody's time! And Lou is confirmed to have failed, not because he didn't actually show any love and compassion, even though that is clearly the direct reason for why he failed. It was because he didn't have any love and compassion, because that's his personality, but it's because he's a prototype, not meant for public consumption. Always the guide. Now that's actually a pretty cool, alright concept for a villain of the story. He's angry that something as ugly as Ox can make it to the big world, and yet we never really see any more of his tragic story and how he became more evil over time. On top of that, he joined this exam knowing that he was going to fail because he's a prototype, said that he was going to try and sabotage everyone else, and then at the end just started running for himself when he knew it wouldn't work anyway. And he's already heard this a million times that it's about love and compassion, so he never tried to do anything loving and compassionate, like brain cells. Where did they go? I mean, I guess they're toys, they literally don't have any, but come on. And even forgetting the mistakes of right now, we saw Ox as his friend from beforehand, but never how he turned or how he actually disliked Ox in the first place. It's all just mentioned, and that's boring. And as a final snap, Lou tries to break the portal to the big world, trapping everyone forever just like him. And so a kind of conflict fight begins. You gotta have another post-conflict in these films. Everyone, I guess, kinda gets a spotlight moment in the fight, though they're also really just background fodder, especially Lucky Bat. He literally hasn't done anything for like an hour. And with Lou defeated and given the best punishment possible, the portal is revealed to actually be broken until they put it back together again.
Because, you know, you can do that with glass.
And yes, this was a song sequence as well. Skip ahead in time, and Uglyville and Perfection have been merged. It's a happy ending song about how it couldn't be better. Toys can now enter the human world and come back at night to hang out. I don't know where the portal back is, but apparently it exists. Actually, they kind of skip over everything to hit that ending, but I mean, is that really a surprise?
The time here is so funky. I mean, what is this, a day, a month? What, 83 minutes?
Whatever the case, Moxie can finally find her kid, though they're briefly worried that she won't come back at night to join them because, I don't know, they wanted to have more doubt. Of course she's gonna want to come back. Like, why would you put this conflict? It doesn't make sense. Whatever. And then there's one scene left. The world of the toys is officially behind us. We've seen the last frame of every other character. It's just Moxie now. And I feel this was probably what the writers felt was their magnum opus of the idea. So Moxie is dropped off in the kid's bedroom. The music gets that classical Pixar feel, and Moxie approaches the child. There's the same dog, the same notebook, and Moxie knows the rules of Toy Story to play dead around humans. The girl sees her gift, the music swells to get you all emotional, and... in actuality, the kid has the same missing tooth. That's the bit. They match. Every other emotional beat of Toy Story holds nothing to this tooth. They came up with this in 2019, and that's the best they could come up with. After all the history of Toy Story and all of their emotional stellar moments, tooth. Anyway, the credits are nice. We see each toy with their respective kids, all perfect matches, at least in design, for all the ugly kids. You know, the blind, the chefs, the always sticks their tongue outs. Okay, so the ugly part kind of drops off here, but it's been missing this whole film anyway, so like, it's on brand. And that's it! Pitbull was the executive producer, and the dog, Robert Rodriguez, was somehow roped into writing. Ice-T was there, and it's clear that they were going for some musical credits with all these stars involved, but man, it just doesn't hold the weight to justify it. Like, do these people honestly think they're gonna make the next Frozen song? Because there's just no effort to make it good. Why are you wasting your time trying to get a musical icon award when you don't put any kind of effort to make it worth it?
Yeah, that's still stupid. Bland, unoriginal, easy, basic, and ironic. Hilariously ironic, in fact. It's the funniest part of the whole film, really. I'm not sure if this film ever really had potential, considering it's just another Toy Story ripoff, but at least with the messaging, there was a hint of good intentions, but boy did they really miss the mark, and considering the context of the whole industry, it's clear on that front that they were really kinda doomed from the start. But you don't need me to tell you it was terrible. From the very first frame, you knew exactly what this film would bring, and it stayed unbelievably true to that mark. What was that thing Lucky Bat said like an hour ago that I skipped over because it was a scene that really didn't matter?
Sometimes the insides of our
films
are hollow?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm an individual, exactly like the rest of you.
But hey, at least it's not the Antichrist. We got that going for us. We're living in interesting times, and while there is all sorts of drama going on the outside of our homes, the reality we see with our actual eyes is pretty dull and boring. We seemingly have all the time in the world, and very little space to move about in it. It's at times like these where distractions are a godsend, some sort of escapism, away from the dreary grey walls of our inner houses to somewhere more fantastical and colour-based. That's what the world needs right now. And that's where the hero of Color City comes in. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Terrible series, the saga where we find the bottom of the barrel animated movies and dissect where everything just went wrong. Now, if you haven't heard of the hero of Color City, then congratulations, you've been living a blessed life. The film was released back in 2014 through a limited 69 theaters in the US, nice, and racked up $600,000 worldwide. Good job, Magnolia Pictures. Apparently, no matter what you do, if you make any film at all, you're just destined to make way too much money off of it. One quick glance at the film tells you more than enough about the outer context of the film, as it's clearly not made for you and me. Unlike what we've covered previously in the series, it's not some greedy butchering of a beloved franchise, and it's not the childish incompetence of an unworthy animation studio. This is something else entirely different. This is, just simply put, a movie for babies. Tiny babies. Which leads me down a strange path. Am I the villain of this story? This film isn't spouting any kind of toxicity or hurting anyone within its vicinity. It's just a dumb, goofy film targeted towards children who don't know any better. Am I in the wrong to be picking it apart? To point and laugh at it? Am I the trasher of some wholesome, innocent content? Should I feel guilty about all of this? No. I may be 20 years older than the target demographic intended. I may not hold the babyish innocence that I once held, but I feel strongly that children's animation should not just be brainless babysitters. The repetitive jokes, the bland character developments, the lackluster storyline, all of them are doing the kids of today a misservice. Children are way smarter than their parents pin them out to be. Kids can grasp complex stances, and even if they don't understand every single detail, giving them anything that's watered down and tasteless is simply wasting a child's time. Kids can grow up on the likes of Pixar and all sorts of surprisingly deep cartoons, so giving them more of this junk is something I will continue to shoot down. So speaking of Pixar, the rehash is clearly inspired by the likes of Pixar's greatest hit, with the premise going as follows. Ben is a kid in his room who likes coloring, but the moment he goes to bed, his crayons suddenly come to life. Wow. Now all of your favorite colors are here with their own colorful characteristics. What's your favorite color? Blue, yellow, green, or sheriff? Somehow, and I have no idea how the film managed to achieve this, but there are actually some notable celebrity voice actors featured in the film, like your classic Tara Strong, the VA of Tommy Pickle, Sean Austin, and Wayne Brady. The film obviously doesn't do them justice with the depths of their characters, but it also kind of feels like they knew that, considering the quality of some of their acting.
Few more steps. Oh, excuse me,
Gosh, don't emote too hard, my heart can't take it. Each color has a very flat and stereotypical character trait. Red is fiery and sassy, blue is cool, yellow is afraid, and black is depressed. There's also green, who's not envious or greedy or anything. He's nerdy and organized, obsessively. Yeah, that's what I associate with green. If you're expecting any further developments on these titular characters, don't. Their only purpose is to give comments related to their trait throughout this entire adventure. So upon waking up, the sheriff gives us immediate exposition of the gimmicks of the world. They have until Ben wakes up to do whatever they want, and should probably hurry into the crayon box to enter Color City. So everyone does this incredibly slowly. The pacing of this film is an absolute snooze fest. I can kind of understand during these opening moments, since the movie wants to use this chance to reveal to us all 7 main characters and then some, but even still, it just drags on and on. First, Yellow is scared under the bed, then the others wake up, each one has their moment, Yellow gets scared and joins the others, they're berated by an elderly crayon for an uninspired gag, Blue tries to cheer up Yellow, activates the Trashosaur. That's not how dino names work. The sheriff's process continues, the crayons almost get exposed, and then they finally jump into the box. It's a 6.5-minute sequence between Yellow opening her eyes and the crayons jumping into the main location of the entire film. Yawn. So eventually the story takes its first step, with Yellow being left behind by the group and not knowing what to do. Apparently the daily routine of always going to Color City is something that just slips everyone's mind unless the sheriff explains it every single time. Anyway, soon Yellow is confronted by Ben's newest creation, King Skrull and Nat, a couple of unfinished scribbles. They scare Yellow as being some kind of freakish monster, and though they wanted to be colored in, the crayons have vanished to Color City and no one else is allowed to follow. The two attempt to anyway, mistaking a Jack-in-the-Box for the entrance. Isn't that a funny gag? Except, even for a baby film, the execution for it is just lackluster. Like, watch this. There's no fun music, no goofy sound effects. It's edited almost like a completely serious scene. Just the flat sounds of reality and no real jokey tone to any of it. This isn't even played as a joke, it's just soulless. So Yellow uses the opportunity to escape to Color City in the crayon box and goes about her day like normal. She joins the others and visits the spa, a place to go to relax and repair after use. The white crayon gets a brief moment of wanting to enter but can't for being unused, and Yellow is taken inside whilst the others prepare for a beach party instead. There's almost a burgeoning world here with the idea of spa treatment, but literally nothing else in this city suggests any other kind of explainable extra context that would be smart for crayons. It's just a normal place with locations for the story to jump on. Also, once we're inside, we see that there's other crayon colors identical in traits. There's another Yellow who's also afraid of things. Is she called Yellow as well? Are all Yellows female? Are colors races, or are families several colors mashed together? Also, Madame Pink here is French for a reason I cannot pinpoint at all. Yellow lets slip her wishes to be like the other colors for their stability and mentions King Skrull before stopping herself. Now that we know her brief internal thoughts, it's time to move out of here as Green beckons her for the beach party.
With colors so bright, oh, it reminds me of spring and ringing my
Oh, this is a musical now? Why? Why is every baby show a stupid musical? Where did Green go? Where's the bike coming from? Yellow spends the next 2 minutes riding around the city aimlessly, singing about how much she loves the place. The song is about as flat and uninventive as you can imagine, and as for the instrumental underneath, well, it literally sounds like a messy jam session with a bunch of 4-year-olds. Here's some story again after a 7-minute break. King Skrull and Nat breach through the entrance. What's their ultimate game plan? To bounce and chase Yellow seemingly endlessly. Meanwhile, at the lighthouse, literally it's just called the lighthouse, the others are having their beach party. After a long conversation of obvious blindness, eventually they see Yellow being taken by King Skrull. Wow, my heart bleeds. And there was almost a good joke with the others' reaction. Seeing Black just watching unfazed is hilarious. What's gonna be his witty one-liner?
I'm going this way now.
That's a big monster.
Oh. After failing to negotiate, they all charge him.
Charge!
Again, my heart just can't stop bleeding from the amount of weight put behind this voice acting. It's remarkable, Wayne Brady. In fact, there's so many pointless bits inserted into this sequence. Like, so King Skrull climbs the Crayon Tower a la King Kong, and Nat confronts Yellow 2 to joke about trees. The plan is sabotaged as Sheriff knocks them down with his flying paper airplane that he apparently has. It's powered by sheer writing incompetence alone, and Yellow is dropped and caught by Blue. Dejected, the Scribbles choose to go to the source of the crayon's color to color themselves, bouncing there in almost an instant. Meanwhile, the Sheriff crash lands, breaking his arm, and every other crayon just gets on with their lives again, essentially just forgetting about the Scribbles. There's a brief pun on the color purple they throw in without any real substance or need, which I can almost appreciate the pun if it was executed any way better than this. There's a handful of these scattered in, and some aren't that bad. There's a navy blue and an aquamarine as the Sheriff's official guardsman that I actually kind of like, and a joke on Tutti Frutti being several colors. Yeah, that one's not too good. Also, a couple elderly crayon jokes that just don't really add anything or have any unique substance at all, really. As the Sheriff appears to tell of the new problems, they look off to the distance to see Skrull climbing the distant mountain, and even though that took about 40 seconds since we last saw them, the crayons decide to set up an entire presentation that undoubtedly would be far too slow to fix the problem. Enter Professor Heliotrope. Man, that's a bit of a complex color choice for a main-ish character, don't you think? My colorblind self hasn't even heard of a heliotrope. So this guy's trope is what everyone associates with the heliotropes. He's completely, unbearably rambly. Now make a guess in your head. How long do you think it'll take this guy to explain to the crowd that if they lose their color source, they'll cease to exist? It takes 2.5 minutes! 2.5 minutes of this! Is this what death feels like? So yeah, everybody panics and our main gang all signs up to volunteer to help, though only White has any real motive wanting to be useful for once. Everyone else just kinda does it. Except Yellow. The Scribbles, meanwhile, soak themselves in color before seeing it drains away again. Also, did the editors literally leave in a cough from one of the actors in there? Is that what I'm hearing? So the Scribbles decide to plug up the source to force the crayons to come to them and color them in. Everybody sets up on the boat with Yellow bringing supplies and accidentally sends the boat off with her on it. It's really stupid all the way through, and another over-the-top long scene that I've cut right up. We're now 36 minutes into this film, and finally the adventure begins, halfway through the entire thing. Time for another musical number on the boat! Again, it's really crap. Every character's verse describing themselves is just unrhythmic, it harshly jars with the music of the chorus, and just feels improvised and amateur. Though I like Black's verse just cutting off the music entirely. I swear he's the closest thing to a funny character. On the river, the path splits, with the crew struggling to communicate whether to go left or right. It's that uncreative trope again. Eventually, they go the wrong way and have to stay within the lines down the rapids. As everybody panics, Yellow uncharacteristically takes charge, putting Green in charge of control since he's the most obsessive with being in the lines. And it kind of works, but they crash at the end of the river anyway, after a harrowing 8 seconds of stress. Seriously, the moment Green touches the wheel, there's basically one corner, and then they're at the coast. No build-up, no action, just nothing. And what's the lesson to learn out of all of this?
Only goes to show that sometimes you just have to color outside the lines.
What? So the peeps realize their colors are fading, and the Scribbles, after all this time, are just continuing to clog the source. The pacing on these guys is very detached. Now we've reached a desert somehow, where everyone's too scared from the mist, even Cool Blue. Yellow uncharacteristically pushes White forwards to try again as he camouflages into the mist. So they do and discover not monsters in the mist, but other unfinished drawings, who are abandoned from society apparently, even though no one knows them, and are hiding from the monster that eats unfinished drawings. The drawings suggest going through the desert to reach their goal, as every other route is disastrous, so they do, ignoring that whole stress of the carnivorous monster. If you're wondering where the logic went, forget about it. Just enjoy the blandly generic pop song backing. As a reward, the crayons then choose to color in these unfinished drawings, as per Yellow's request. This could get really weird if anyone else made this film. Instead, what we get is this. It's kinda dull. The music's too quiet, the sound effects loud and generic, and the animation of it all is just kind of uninspired and slow. But eventually, everyone's all colored, even though they're running out of time. And it all ends off with each drawing saying their victory pun, back to back to back to back to back.
We don't have a problem.
Moo, 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 moo. I am B.
The writers probably thought they were real smart with this. So to get to the top of the mountain, the crayons slingshot up, because apparently they had that in their kit all this time, and some more heartfelt acting comes out of their mouths. They have Yellow go ahead to confront the Scribbles, who are somehow still doing the same motions after all this time, only to be attacked by Trashosaur, the drawing-eating monster. King Skrull then appears to save her by... There really is just no conflict in this film, is there? Just too scary for babies, right? With Yellow saved, she understands that they just wanted some color. She draws a mouth on the king and goes to negotiate with the other crayons. In a final misunderstanding, the others reject Yellow's side-swapping and decide to beat up the king, only for Yellow to finally explain herself 3 minutes later in the same scene, and for them to finally understand. Storytelling. So they all band together to pull at the boulders instead of picking them one by one or something, and struggle even then to open the source, until...
I have brought reinforcements. Ha ha!
Sounds like the cavalry.
Oh, thanks, Tracer. How? How does this make any sense? Why? And with a final pull, they break the dam and release the color waterfall. Color is restored, everyone is happy, Madame Pink kisses the sheriff for no real reason, and the crayons leave everyone behind. They all get back without a boat or a slingshot or whatever, and celebrations begin with the Scribbles happy and colored. And Yellow is awarded the medal of the hero of Color City.
It's not it. How did that get there?
Oh God, please stop. And as time runs out, everyone leaps back to reality, and Ben wakes up to see his new drawings all colored in without him. They get stuck up on his wall alongside the other drawings, with them repeating their big brain victory puns, and as Yellow is grabbed by Ben for no real reason, she reveals her face in his hand to look happily at them on the wall, with a cheeky wink to end the film. This film isn't toxic by any means, but it's boringly bland. It has about as much significance as a blank sheet of paper, and is so simplistically designed that it doesn't strive to do anything even remotely well. Even the Story 101 rules of establishing features to return to later is completely amiss. White never gets to go back to the spa having been used. Black never gets any happier. Nobody gets so bad in the fading phase to go transparent and disappear. And no one knows why Ricky is given a name. It's not much to ask for, but any extra weight to add to this film could have at least made it generically fine. But this is just amateur and unfulfilling. Unsurprisingly, the reviews for this film were abysmal, for its sheer lack of anything. Although, bafflingly enough, since being released on streaming platforms, it's actually managed to rise up the ranks from, I presume, either pokey iPad kids or their brainless parents again, demonstrating as clear as day that there will always be people stupider out there somewhere. Though I think we've all kind of learned that recently. Do I feel bad for dunking on a baby show? No, No. I think kids deserve something that'll engage them in something worthwhile rather than this palate vomit. But if there is one thing that makes me a little hesitant, it's this. At the end of the credits of mostly just concept art, which is kinda cool, there's a PSA from the characters urging kids to recycle their crayons so that they can be reused to make crayons for other kids all around the world. That feels like something warm-hearted and genuinely sends out a nice message. Huh. But the rest of the film can disappear for all I care. Look what they did to my boy Wayne Brady. Why? Why do these films always manage to drag down talented celebrities like this? I guess if there's one lesson to learn from all of this, it's that with enough willpower and skill combined, we can still all come together to make something truly terrible, to hopefully be forgotten forever. No one's above true trashy film. And the hero of Color City could have done with a little more coloring outside of the lines.
We lost the team because of me.
No, it was because of me.
No, I insist I take the blame.
Well, I insist you return the blame and give it to me.
Look, it wasn't you. It wasn't.
Oh, Ice Age. Ice Age, Ice Age, Ice Age. You're like a reanimated fossil, 20 years old and yet still moving, deformed more and more each year. Ice Age has an interesting story, since it's somehow been keeping along with us all through the years. Always following, like it's in the back of our minds. But as more films released, it felt like its cultural relevance disappeared more and more with each installment. And now, even with the initial studio dead, it's been revived and puppeted around when Disney themselves got their hands on the IP, bringing us round to last year in 2022, when they came out with Ice Age Buck Wild. Another film I didn't have access to in the UK when everyone else did, so here I am a year later. So you've got the super success of the simple original, the great follow-up to expand out the family, the strange third one that is an acceptable expansion with dinosaurs considering the ancient period. Then it warped into a rival story where somehow no one's actually gone extinct from the melting ice caps still yet. Then they proper jumped the shark by taking Scrat to space or something. And for number 6, we've looped back round to the third movie. What? I guess it makes sense for going back to simpler times, but this feels more like desperately clawing to nostalgia than a legitimate experience.
Everything changes.
Does it though? I get the feeling that it kind of doesn't. I feel like we've been rehashing these same moments again and again and again, and it's just always the same, you know? You know. Have some self-awareness. And so for the first 3 minutes of the movie, we just have an outright nostalgia gush of the previous 5 films displayed as cave drawings.
And lately it seems like my brothers are getting a little restless.
And like a storybook prologue, that's our inkling to actually start telling the story, as we see Crash and Eddie the Possum twins scaling the side of a glacier.
What if we move out and get our own place? Ooh!
Oh no, they're ugly. How do they somewhat look bolder? So yes, this is the version of Crash and Eddie we're just gonna have to get used to looking at, cause graphic upgrades don't necessarily mean improvements. This is a spin-off product, so the animation has that weird, cheap feeling that doesn't rival what kids' content usually looks like in this day and age. Apparently handled by Bardell Entertainment, same guys behind Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Eee. Anyway, we'll touch on the production mayhem later down the line. Whatever the case, you can pick up the story from the 2 lines we've played so far.
I'm a cold guy on the mountaintop. Yeah, young Bill making his drop.
I already regret visiting this movie and it's been 4 minutes. So as the opossums do some cringe things, imagining a world as bachelors, they're beckoned down the mountain, doing so in more forced nostalgic fashion.
Okay, so where is Buck as the protagonist of this movie anyway?
Yeah, so this is going to be a thing. This is called Buck Wild because it's meant to be all about Buck from the underworld. And to be fair, they did manage to drag back Simon Pegg for this role, but you're going to see there's an awful lot of Crash and Eddie involved. This project was originally a TV series based just on Buck back in 2018, but warped into a movie over the years and post-studio collapse. And the result is this.
So that's why I've always thought that good hygiene is overrated.
That's not Sid. John Leguizamo didn't return for this movie, and it is awful. But to be fair, some other actors weren't back either, like Ray Romano, Dennis Leary, Queen Latifah, Sean William Scott, and Josh Peck. Wait, Josh Peck was an Ice Age character? Ah, he was Eddie. Wait, Eddie as in the non-protagonist of this movie as a whole? And also literally everyone in the main cast is replaced? And wasn't there a child mammoth in the mix? Where is Peaches? Just missing in this reality? Jeez, 6 minutes in, and you can see this was a production nightmare. And so the Possum Boys are scolded for their misbehavior and stupid desires to leave, and they retort with,
"We do things that matter."
Like this.
This movie isn't pushing any boundaries. It's simple for stupid's sake and is just cheap, easy content. To think this is how Disney imagines the Ice Age universe. How insulting. So now the non-Possum family debate about it all that night with all the same bland dialogue you would come to expect. Except for Diego for some reason. His voice actor was on holiday or something. All you need to gather from this scene is...
well, family can be difficult.
Thanks, Trey Mondo. Your impression of Ray Romano is almost there. And now the movie just outright redoes Ellie's flashback scene from Ice Age 2. Shot for shot, this is the same sequence from before in a whole new sheen. A spin-off doesn't always have to repeat beats from prior films shot to shot, so this is an intentional stab at nostalgia bait. You can just picture Disney dangling the Ice Age IP at you like,
Hello, remember this? What a great time me and you had. Remember the good old days, how we had in 2006 or something?
that wasn't with you, Disney.
Alright, who said that? Come here, punk, I'm gonna sue you to the next generation.
But still, they expand the Ellie, Eddie, and Crash flashback with some more moments with Mother Possum. You know, like with that joke they already did in their first movie appearance. And after a brief moment about the Possum Mum's funeral, Ellie is still holding onto the remnants of the family she has, and will quickly forget it for the rest of the movie as Eddie and Crash begin their adventure solo. The flashback was just for brownie points. And the next morning, the group are immediately on the task of trying to find them.
Destiny awaits!
You know, I'm not even sure if that was clear to see. Your eyes are too busy looking into the distant, interesting American football post tree to spot the tiny guys and their smoke cloud landing. Legit, this is awful storyboarding. But finally, it jumps us into action. Back into the dino underworld.
Snack time.
With an immediate introduction to our villain, it's a dinosaur. What a twist. And as his goons that don't speak in this animal kingdom chase the boys off of a cliff, finally we get...
I mean, technically it was a little different. It was at a lower key. I mean, look at this, look at this. Ugh. So like, yeah, it's basically the same. Essentially, it's how you remember it, right? Nostalgia.
And then they're immediately chased by a giant spider. They're glowing around the outlines for some random reason here. I guess the lighting simulation's a bit funky underground. And then it leads to another callback.
I remember this guy. He's allergic to possums.
And just like that, finally, 20 minutes in, we meet the guy the movie's meant to be named after. It's Buck magically appearing now. This underworld is small.
Hello, boys!
I don't know how big and expansive this underworld is meant to be, but catching the main guy you're after 30 seconds feels a little cheap. Ah well, it's an 80-minute movie anyway. Yes, we're a quarter way done already. Or not already enough.
Your ways are strange and mysterious, Buck. But mostly strange.
Ah, leave that odd dialogue for the video game version. Sounds like it'd be more fitting there. Now what follows next is an attempt of an action sequence that I think very swiftly showcases how milquetoast this whole movie has turned out to be. See the Velociraptor goons hop onto Buck's pterodactyls. Freak out ensues. To which they slightly swing around in flight for a moment before... They then just react again the same way because the second one pops up, but like... We all saw there were two already. It's not like they were hidden or the characters should have missed them. There's barely any evasive maneuvers, just kind of going with the beats like it's phoning it in on a normal Tuesday.
Buck! Crack!
And then it's over. So what's Buck's tale this time? Ready to go wild and all that. After all, it's easy to forget, but this is supposed to be his movie.
A dino named Orson just escaped from exile, and he's jonesing to rule the lost world.
Oh, well, I was expecting that exposition to come out at least when they'd landed, at a more natural point when Buck's trying to deal with it, but sure, I guess we could just spill the beans immediately. More animation frames mean more costs. Chop chop.
Bit.
Yeah, that was worth the 15-second delay. Retract my statement about animation costs. No, but really, this type of joke is what you can expect for most of this movie, and it just doesn't hit right for some reason. It just kind of happens. The movie this time around is very much aimed for an even younger demographic, and maybe that's it? Or maybe you're just bouncing off of not the best characters with circumstances that just aren't that grand. Feels more like a Sid joke, you know?
I'm the only one that can stop Orson, but I won't be able to do that if I have you two to look after.
But Buck rejects them too. He's got his own plans, and it doesn't involve these liabilities. Honestly, why are they here? This could easily be a Buck exclusive adventure. They couldn't even get the original VAs back. Plus, we skipped it before, but they've been rambling on expressions of everyone else in their family as explanation to why they're here. A lot of this is just skippable junk.
This boulder's not supposed to be here. How did it get here?
But the boys can't return because the only entranceway has been blocked. By who?
My brain is the one thing that's gonna get me my revenge.
This is our central villain of the film, the one dinosaur who can talk, hosting a gigantic brain. Full of insecurity, sure, but his voice?
Lost world for lost species. Dinos rule, mammals drool.
I mean, it just screams cheap TV villain. I'm not invested, I'm bored.
Time for a possum picnic. Oh!
And then Buck gets him out of there with a couple whip swishes and a cliff dive. Come on, at least show us some more interesting action sequence. Why are we even trying? And Orson is left disgruntled.
No one outsmarts Orson! Ah! Oh my jeez!
This sounds like a cringy fanfic dubbing. And so I guess the boys are with Buck. Don't forget the plot, it's all about the micro gags in this movie, like their mode of transportation. Kids absolutely everywhere guffawing at that one. Until they're at Buck's home, a bachelor den not too dissimilar from what they wanted. Being roommates would be the perfect lifestyle for them. But Buck chooses to ride solo. But they can help with Orson.
Up top!
See, again, I feel like the storyboard is missing the mark, because is anyone paying attention to the tiny fruit falling off at the side of the table when your eye line is directed to the action at the top of the frame? This is Disney quality? I know my eyes are half falling asleep, but I can't follow shot for shot. Meanwhile, the family up top are still searching for the possums.
Hey, Uber tracker, you picked up that scent yet?
Uber says that delivery was meant to be 10 minutes ago, but I'll be honest, I can't smell any nearby Domino's pizza at all yet.
But it goes nowhere. Time to learn of the crux of the original Buck TV series idea. He used to have a team. A collective built on maintaining harmony around a specific watering hole. So what, they were lifeguards?
Well, I wouldn't use the term superhero. I mean, I wouldn't stop you.
Oh, of course. It's just keeping up with the latest movie trend. Gotta have them everywhere. Thanks, Disney. Can always count on you for originality.
He didn't believe in harmony. He believed in a world where the strong dominate the weak.
And alongside your basicest of basic evil plot lines, the film goes out of its way to delay things, like this joke about Eddie having a marshmallow in his ear first. Not even remotely smart or funny writing. And so we learn that most of the team died. The ugly ones. How very Disney. And then continuing the expositional flashbacks, Orson was banished to Lava Island.
And not the nice one.
This is about as funny as the jokes get. Poor Sean Pegg is doing his best, but...
Ooh.
Cheap stock sound effects are kinda just the vibe of this whole movie. By the way, it's Fire that had Orson escape and gain a couple mindless goons. And now they're in the house. That was quick and easy. Eddie and Crash naturally unaware at the last possible moment, choosing to smash up the place in obliviousness. And they're only saved by... Oh no. Yup, that's exactly what you think it is. This is Z, our new skunk buddy. Well, Zorilla, technically. Her whole shtick is stinking the place up as a form of attack, and boy will she be doing it a lot.
Looking for this?
And so now they venture out together. I thought it was nighttime or something, but I guess not? House time was just break time? Either way, the plot is moving forwards, with the possums bumbling in the background as the new duo ramble on and on about what's at stake.
And because then it will be the Lost World, which is both sad and confusing.
The Lost World will be, well, lost.
Yes, okay, we get it. Can we please stop pausing to just pad out for some crappy jokes, please, movie? This is probably the most self-aware joke I've ever made as a green screen gag. So, skipping that scene, as well as the one where Orson complains about the dimensions of a wood figurine and a copying dinosaur.
Don't you dare.
Eventually, Big Brain Dino comes up with a genius plan that he needs more than 2 minions. His intelligence knows no bounds, truly. Now we're at the watering hole as the raptors are making their way over. Again, that sure was quick, Orson. It literally took you 90 seconds to amass an army somehow. Unseen. Nope, still can't fly! And every good writer knows it's best when making a spin-off cash grab to just reuse jokes from your original movie. So everyone panics trying to escape as Buck jumps on each raptor head almost effortlessly.
It's time to get buck wild.
And that's the movie, folks. Hope you had a good time. God, I wish it was over. But no, Orson has his entire army here now, and Buck just hides behind a leaf. And now he's unfindable. We get more ramble padding like...
What does Z stand for?
Before coming right out of the bushes and onto a boat. Okay, this feels like improv. Where did Orson go? Where's the tension? Why a boat? Didn't they have pterodactyls before? Whatever. Also, it's very weird, this format. The possums, our main protagonists, aren't contributing anything. I know I was complaining that it was the other way before, but like they're just taking a back seat to their own movie. Why are they even here? Just to connect us to the core group of the franchise as a whole? It all feels odd. Anyway, boat scene now with more just content.
You know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering why my butt's stuck to the seat.
Right. And then, in strict fashion, Z and Buck argue on the boat about past grievances, and as the original family very briefly have an emotive staring at the moon moment, they then immediately stop to do their annoying idiot routine.
We're doing it! High five!
Though I guess it's just a gag that never causes an issue since they still stay on course. I mean, they're on a river, so of course they did. Instead, collecting poisonous things overnight.
Should we not have adopted these cute pet lizards either?
That is hilarious. And thus we're here. Retracing the height of the third movie too, because what else is there? Oh, dental surgery. I certainly didn't have that on my bingo card. It is 1 minute long, and another excuse to whip out the old... And now the raptors are here. Do they also have a boat, or are they always narratively 30 seconds away? Mama T-Rex can't help here because she's in too much of a daze after being flash-banged back to consciousness. And everyone else is cornered up a pedestal. Time for the regretful goodbyes to immediately tie a knot on the argument earlier.
We lost the team because of me.
No, it was because of me.
No, I insist I take the blame.
Well, I insist you return the blame and give it to me.
Look, it wasn't you. It wasn't...
You've heard it all before. There is not a semblance of original writing in this entire piece. The format is absolute and basic, right down to the little details.
We really want harmony in the Lost World. It has to start with working together.
So, like, what was everything up to this point? Weren't you already throwing daggers to each other, using a mutually created boat, sticking together as a duo with the possums? Like, what are you saying here? What's changed? Literally nothing, like, logistically. So what's the move going forward?
Get Mama and the possums to safety.
Going it alone, literally tackling Orson solo, like the exact opposite of everything told by the words. I can't even with this movie. 3 brain cells is too much for this film.
I win!
Why isn't he eaten? Was that not the stakes before? What's the definition of survival in Survival of the Fittest, Orson? So the gang are just spiritually aware that Buck's not dead and being returned to the watering hole, so they too head in that direction. All the creatures of the Lost World cowering in fear against the tyrannical age of raptors.
Well, you can go back home now. I mean, you know, you don't need to stick around in a log forever. They literally walked past us. They're clearly going somewhere else, and it's all of them. What are you doing still moping around in a tree log for? They're literally gone. Why are you crying, mate? What's wrong with you? Just go outside. They're literally gone already. Stop crying, you baby.
But you know what's even less logical than a world upset by a single road trip?
This is all our fault, Eddie.
You guys have literally done nothing since being here. You didn't release Orson, you didn't distract Buck, you just showed up. In sync. Truly, you are both going to hell for your crimes. And as the sulking scene continues, we of course have the classic pep talk scene.
Is this what Buck would do? Give up?
But with an ending that is incredibly Ice Age Buck Wild, and by that I mean just padding after padding with nonsense that's just wasting everybody's time.
To harness the power of our spleens, we can master lightning!
So now it's training time for the surprise attack they're gonna do, learning how to spit berries with accuracy. Wow. Hey, you know who we haven't seen in almost an hour, the entire movie ago? The Core group.
Face it, guys. Crash and Eddie have gone bye-bye.
Those ding-dongs went back to the Lost World.
And that's it. That's the entire scene. Worth it. That was 30 seconds long. What a cameo. Oh, actually, maybe the scenes in general are just getting shorter as we spend 50 seconds on the gang witnessing the watering hole and debating on how big the raptors are or not. And then, back to the family. Man, this movie is just something else. It's not Ice Age, I can tell you that. They remove the blockade from the entrance of the entire thing and get Indiana Jones'd off of the bridge. Huh. Apparently, in the world of Buck Wild, downwards is the same as sideways. Now you're thinking with portals.
Huh?
Could they really not get Sid to revoice any lines to be remotely on pitch? Ice Age has never sounded worse. But they discover Mama T-Rex.
Dinner is served. Compliments of King Orson.
But why didn't you do this at any point sooner? But it's quickly dispelled by...
Huh?
Oh! It's surprise attack time. And I'm uncomfortable again. But as Buck is set off of a cliff now, forget the whole eating thing, he is of course saved, flinging the cage into a cliff for Z to be able to grab him. The surprise attack goes flawlessly because the movie has to end at some point.
How about we make it up as we go along?
Now that's what I call a plan.
Was that not what they've been doing this entire time anyway, when they were totally not working together already? This movie is a train wreck. Raptors are punchable now, possums have infinite pellets, and the family have arrived to witness too. And with every raptor now just one hit away from being taken out, Buck can reach Orson as the others join in the fight too. And only Sid has any real troubles.
Nailed it!
Was that meant to be a dramatic moment? Where's the sound design? There's a soundtrack, I know, but it's just the main theme playing on repeat like it's been doing this entire movie. Boy. And now they're finally cornered again as they run out of berries.
Remember what Z said? The answer is in our chest fur!
Oh, that's the climax. That one gag that never got a second establishment like the rulebook of callbacks demands. That solves everything. And as the possums play dead post-distraction, now all the raptors play dead too. And everybody's happy.
Looks like you've been outsmarted.
Feels more like outdumbed if you ask me. And just like that, Orson is batted away to...
Hey, please don't eat me. You're depriving the world of a great genius. I'm full of tiny bones that'll get stuck in your throat.
Wow. So the residents aren't even the ones who beat him up, it's the raptors, despite clearly not actually having a desire to eat. And also, Orson still has those flint fingernails that can put them under his command at any moment. A real solid comeuppance there, with a delivery that clearly screams, I am being chased to death and am desperate in my final moments. Right? You can hear that in the performance, can't you? Or does it feel more like another milquetoast piece of this incredibly bland movie? And with our happy ending, the possums reunite with Ellie, extrapolate all emotional intelligence that they have done nothing to warrant having this perspective, considering they didn't even talk about Ellie this entire time.
You didn't think we could take care of ourselves. And you worried about us. Because you really care about us.
And everyone is sorry. But they leave anyway.
We're staying!
And that was Buck Wild. All about, I'm not sure, family? But independence. Working together, but then going solo. Where in the timeline is this? Where was Peaches? Was there an original good joke? How did this last 80 minutes? And why did I waste all of my time on it? Ice Age has long been buried and reanimated as an acorn shell of what it once was. Disney spitting on its grave with an installment that could not be more soulless, unfunny, illogical, and boring. And perhaps the worst crime of all, throughout the entire runtime, there was not even an iota of the franchise's secret star, Scrat, making an appearance at all. And for that alone, that was the terrible Ice Age Buck Wild. Alright, which one of you sitters suggested that I have a look at the Bobbleheads movie? Did you know this was a thing? I didn't know this was a thing, but it's done by Threshold Entertainment. We've heard that name before. It's Larry Kassanov's production studio. Mr. Mortal Kombat, Lego Clutch Powers, and Food Fight. Of course. And just from glaring at this shuffled footage from the entire runtime, you know exactly what kind of vibe they were going for this project. It's a spin of a Toy Story ripoff, so sure, let's get into it. Microsoft Azure, isn't that a cloud service? What a strange credit. We begin on a roller coaster set of all places as an egg is being hoisted across a miniature set for the family to watch. And it's weird, the movie in its first 5 seconds looks like one of those cryptic adverts you get where you have to make some unusual description. I don't think I've ever properly seen an entire movie that has this cheap-looking CGI animation quality. But anyway, we quickly learn that this family are employed entirely around
theme park design,
and their child is the genius of the lot.
Try a potato. Less mess.
She's so smart, she come up with potato. And you know, usually the way I write out these videos is by watching one scene, stopping, and then going back to write all the points I have about it. But for this movie, the first scene just kind of keeps going and going. It's like a solid 6 minutes of events continuing as characters move from room to room. We've got our baseline establishment.
I am 13.
It's crunch time.
Which then leads straight into a brief phone call with the boss, Audrey being sent to check on the baby character, and the parents building their fish a Rube Goldberg food feeder. This is a quirky family, I'll give them that. But why are the fish's eyes the same as the adult-sized humans? This art style is unnerving, man. The Coco Melon effect has gone too far. And speaking of Coco Melon, the baby has now spawned a consciousness as it starts making its way downstairs, precariously almost hurting itself if it wasn't for background Bobblehead over here to help along the way. Cause yes, in this universe, the toys are not complete inanimate objects, they can move completely freely, expressing faces mid-human conversation as well as just randomly start bobbing unprovoked. Like a wind just came down and gusted on them or something. There's the skateboarding one with the parents, the robot one with the baby, and for Audrey there is...
You're right. People just disappoint you.
a cat one. You know, it's not really toys, is it? It's more just humans and an animal. I mean, I know they haven't even started communicating properly yet, but I already feel like this concept is kind of bland. Anyway, the baby almost dies, as you'd expect. Why is it with so many of these terrible animations, the sound design work is just not there? There's no impact for landing on the ball, and it's practically silent with just this over-babyfied soundtrack in the back. This is enough to keep children's attention. It just seems, again, too bland. So skipping ahead a little, the baby does have a fall to be saved by the parents. Audrey is in trouble for not spotting her despite doing nothing wrong from her perspective, and they choose to go off on vacation, thanks to a poke from the other background Bobblehead. And one final thing before we actually see the concept of the film come alive, the dad gets a call from his brother Earl and suddenly explodes.
15 years. What kind of a relationship is that?
Ideal!
Impressive how the best voice acting we've heard so far is from the literal child in the cast. What is this out-of-place screaming? Or is this the director and animator's fault? Is it you, Kasanoff? So off they pop, the child continuing to speak just like an adult with...
What about your deadline? What about the mortgage?
And of course, the movie, in its mandatory ways, every terrible movie does this, referencing the newfangled thing kids like to do.
Be a, online influencer.
It's called an influencer.
That's so cool. And after seemingly hours of time has passed, only now do the Bobbleheads actually move into action.
Oh, you furball McKitty.
Oh man, I feel like this constantly bobbing motion is gonna give me secondhand motion sickness. If I'm feeling it, I can't imagine what it must be like for middle-aged moms. This seems like a real flaw in character design, and I wonder if we'll ever get used to it. So we've got to establish our characters now.
What are you doing?
Name is Iki Oi.
Incredibly clearly, straight to the audience, despite them all surely knowing exactly who each other are.
To know of one's head. Don't run away while I'm monologuing.
And naturally, all the delivery is flat and bland as well. Jokes are spoken, but not really presented. You've got the grumbly cat, the enthusiastic ninja mecha, and you've got...
I don't play. This is a long overdue shred sesh.
Ah yes, the skater archetype of character. The cool one doing what cool kids do. Except, hold on, what year did this come out? This would have been perfect for some kind of 90s movie, or maybe early 2000s, but 2020? We were all in lockdown when this movie came out? And they're bringing out this tired trope? I don't think this movie understands its target demographic very well. And why do her voice lines sound like...
All good in the hood. It was the right thing to do.
Well, they sound like she's recording from inside a drainage pipe. Justified because she's vaguely in a bathtub, but again, this sound design is shoddy at best. This is the kind of audio you get from a student film, you know? Anyway, the Bobbleheads don't get along, all three of them.
Not some comic book guest star who got aced after one issue.
Aced? Do you mean axed? Like a comic book guest star who got axed after one issue? What is going on in the sound design? Why does this keep happening to Toy Story ripoff specifically? And then as Skater Girl is briefly drowned and tries to get out, Purbles here, who's more just the Squidward of the group than anything else, randomly decides to get involved with...
Purbles?
Why? There is no character integrity in this film. Jump to the next day and Mecha Ninja is playing Xbox. Skater Girl is skating around the house against this incredibly rare obstacle prop before destroying Harvey the fish's food dispenser. That's a plot. Having to fix a minor machine.
No, I got it. No, I got it. Chill, sister.
You know, behind the totally rad Rip Stickler is actually the voice of Brenda Song. She's a decent actor, but given the dialogues they laid out in front of her and how she has to say the coolest of slang from 20 years ago, if it even was cool back then, and all of her characters just come off as cringe. Shame. So they ask the cat for help, of course. What else is there to play off with after all? Until there's a knock at the door.
Retreat. Back to bases.
In which they run literally to the opposite of their bases and straight to the front door making noise. I love mixed messaging. Anyway, at the door is Earl, the dad's younger brother. How do we know? Oh, well, because the cat went up to take a look without being spotted and somehow just happens to know all the possible information to possibly lay out.
Earl took their father's entire bobblehead collection.
Ah, finally! We actually have an insinuation of something larger than 3 toys, an unidentified glob, and a fish to play around with at an empty house. So where do they go from here? Well, the Robo-Soldier threatens to destroy the incoming invaders with her rifle. You know, she's the Toy Story 1 Buzz Lightyear of the group. Only she knows she's a toy. And that cat immediately shoots her down with...
Your comic book proto might have had a sonic blaster, but that thing's just a breath mint dispenser.
And you see, there are the obvious Toy Story parallels we can make with all this, but with dialogue like this, you can really start to see what makes Pixar's storytelling so immaculate. This is a classic case of telling rather than showing. When Buzz Lightyear wants to show off some move, he does it first before being shot down with an explanation, or we're told to just sit back and watch as Buzz acts upon something, swinging around the room in a gesture of flight. Having Purbles here describe it and then show off it happened just completely undersells the whole exchange. I bet they mostly just wanted to showcase Icky's head shaking as it built up. So cool. Another excuse to almost do something original with the Bobbleheads, just all it is making them bobble. Wowee!
Take that, intruder. Behold my albino mouse turd.
So they fight in the midst of someone literally listening on the other side of the door, because that seems like a smart thing to do, and Earl and his wife barge on in, and for the next 5 minutes they get themselves comfortable. The Bobbleheads successfully hiding away in the background and repeatedly having to stop the over-enthusiastic one. It's not smart, it's not investing, but look what happens when the girls slide down the lap. Oh my god, they bobble! Wowee! What a great concept. Really putting it to full use there. And also, somewhere along the way, the cat fully hoarded the present gift and shoved it under the floorboards. Not quite shown how, or when, properly. But it's theirs now.
You're a thief!
Oh, hold on. They have spring necks now? I didn't realize Bobbleheads work like that. I thought they would just spin on a little plastic edge, you know? That actually seems like something they could play with more. They probably won't. So what's in the box, you may ask? Well, it is Deuce, of course, a baseball star that was clearly idolized by the dad once upon a time. Another bobblehead to add to the collection. 4. All the while, Earl here is getting more concerned that this house may be haunted thanks to his missing gift, unknowingly trapping all the bobbleheads in their secret room with his chair placement. Again, this is a 2020 movie, and we still have aged trope gags like this? Didn't we literally have a whole thing against this during the same time period as this movie came out? But now we're aiming it to 5-year-olds. Oof. So how do they get out?
Let's not let our prototypes give us a big head, eh? Oops.
Not for a while. They've still got to roll out every excuse for a pun on their bobblehead reality first. Does this not get boring to them? Surely the novelty has long worn off by now. Only Deuce was born literally a minute ago. So they explore the vents, flirt a bunch, and witness more human greed, attempting to return Deuce into place as a birthday gift. And it all falls apart, of course, and since this movie is aimed for a demographic of like 5-year-olds, these tiny toys, of course, can get eaten, and the shaking's just pretty PG. Time for a counterattack. Give us your best beat, Greg, who is actually the composer soundtrack guy. Bloody hell, there is nothing in this movie with any kind of substance or flair. This is 2 steps away from just being an ASMR sensory thing with how little everything sounds. And so as this goes on a long while, as both Deuce and McCat refuse to do anything about the dog, eventually things happen as everyone falls over all at once. The cat, the robot, the human, and even the skater flies backwards randomly from the tail. I guess it's action. It's some excuse. Leaving Skater Lady in the fish tank, cat shoved in the fridge, human crawling along the floor, and the others just doing nothing. A lot of oddities that expand for way too long, to be honest. None of it compelling. There's still more, but it's like a collection of completely separate scenes and no real sort of stakes throughout. But hey, another bobblehead decapitation takes place. This is the last they will use of the springheads. So I guess with the house side of things done, we have the dog chasing Deuce and Robot Lady outside, which turns into whack-a-mole. So they escape underground, the cat is now here to be chased onwards and joins them down there. They keep coming up for air for some reason. Why do bobbleheads need air in this universe? And Skater Girl also manages to join in eventually, immediately stumbles, and then teleports to them for them all to run away, separate again, and throw a baseball bat as a... Oh, of course it ends in a game of fetch. See, this is clearly meant to be like an action high, right? But none of it works. There's a difference between compelling action and just stuff happening all the time. Characters make decisions that don't make a lot of sense to just continue the beats onwards, and it all just feels like brain rot. This movie is 90 minutes long, and it feels like I've been here for 45 hours and 2 seconds at the same time. Really, it's the most fitting 2020 movie there is. But with all these beats, every toy is now locked outside the house. What a conundrum! They're gonna have to spend the whole movie working their way back to the house, like a classic Lost Gang movie. They solved it immediately. And again, with the most basic of cartoony ideas. I get that this is a movie for the very young, or so it seems, but can we not just rehash the same old tired tropes just because you're aiming for an audience that won't question it? Isn't it somewhat disingenuous to just copy and paste a movie to profit off of an unknowing generation? With no actual import to creativity or effort, is this not just immoral? So they come through the roof, enter the bathroom, just as a human is coming in. Really, the full scale of this movie's plot is just edge-of-your-seat material. And instead of just, I don't know, acting like a bobblehead toy, idle in an odd place, Robot Girl goes for... toilet paper. With bright blue hair. Don't tell me this movie's gonna go full on into the low brow. It doesn't, thankfully. But, you know, I'm getting pretty tired of this movie. What even is the plot again? In total, the runtime of this movie is 90 minutes, and we are 35 minutes in. What do you think the odds are that if I just skip ahead by 30 minutes, we'll still be in the same house, doing the same basic tasks of meandering around these familial invaders, doing random crap and just flailing about? Let's try it. Boom! Alright, it's nighttime, and oh my god! It's Cher as a bobblehead queen. And she's here giving everyone a pep talk about the bobblehead code. Okay.
The bobble creed is simple. Bobbles, bobble, and bring joy.
Truly an inspiration. She then buzzes off and the gang get to work on kicking out their home invaders. So that's the plot. What could have possibly happened over the last 30 minutes, or not in the last 30 minutes, to have us still at this point? Well, I literally don't think there's enough content in this half hour to properly dissect in this video, so I bit the bullet and watched through it all. Here's all the beats they got up to and how little progress they made. So, they fell into the toilet and had to be rescued. The cat had to be CPR'd. Deuce gets into his present. The humans learn of the brothers' vacation and choose to stay the entire night. Skater Girl tries on lipstick, or something, uncovers Deuce to just revert all story plans there. They go on a date with a montage and very strange animation choices.
Never let you go, hold on tight.
Why is the background doing that? They fly off on a horse in their dreams and are then interrupted by the others. The humans plan to take one of them to replace their missing second bobblehead. Jeez, I wonder who that is now. They all argue about who's being taken, though also aren't they being taken to be gifts to their own owners? So it's literally just a temporary transportation back home, like nothing ever happened? They argue over what is the bobblehead creed, need to feed the fish, but Deuce can't bat or do anything as he's been posing this whole time. Deuce gets offended, they gang up on him. Him and Lover Girl argue. We learn Skater Girl cheated in her competition, sabotaging rivals' wills. This is all just rambled rather than shown, of course. They run from the human appearing again, now randomly having the footstep way to Godzilla. He plays around randomly with the bobbleheads, apparently because he was sleepwalking, so they decide to try scaring Earl since he hates scary movies. It's time for manipulation. Creaking horses, electricity mains, oohing through a pipe and turning on blenders, ending it off with a very clearly fake head that scares him right out of the house. What, did he think Wilson in Castaway was a real person? And also alien shadows, apparently. The wife refuses to leave in the middle of the night, the bobbles are all tangled, they clean up their mess, and the humans start heading out. Robo-Girl types at the computer, they pack up Deuce, Macat then sabotage the human bag so they cannot leave. Robo-Girl spots something, and they learn that Macat is worth a fortune, hence being wanted by the humans. And he turns around with...
I want to be taken.
Say what?
I'm done.
And as the others don't want him to, he's like, so long, losers, and bounces out of there. This gang were never friends, it seems. The wife calls the dog stupid and berates Earl for being a loser, and he doesn't want to steal and sell from his brother. Oh god, I guess we can slow down the pace again. We're finally on the real plot here. There's attempted murder in this baby movie. Gold Digger wife was willing to kill Earl over obtaining this $1 million cat. So the humans start heading out. I mean, they've been going out for the past 15 minutes, eventually culminating in...
I'm gonna use him as a mold and make 1,000 copies.
Finally, a villain. Only took 58 minutes. As Earl is nothing but a pretzel in the boot of the car. $100 million or whatever it was is somehow not enough. But hey, we ain't seen cloning toys or knockoffs even in 4 Toy Story movies yet. So we're actually taking a whole leap up in creativity too. Or the bar's just that low. So the cat is berated for wanting to abandon them so quickly, and everyone's sad for their own reasons. Skater Girl wanting to be a cool prototype based on someone great.
Like you peeps. Someone famous and fabulous and loved. Like you, sister.
Was that established at any point? Or is it normal to just turn to a poster of Cher in your time of need? Well, it activates something, as Skater Girl is immediately beckoned by the computer with the voice of Cher. And then it goes nowhere. Villain Lady is coming back, but doesn't have the keys to get back in. Deuce sneaks out on the dog, and now the lady is back. So many delays. She takes the cat, and just as quickly has a bubble bath. And as everyone reunites, they learn of the big betrayal, and the cat is suddenly on board, after being accidentally used as soap one time.
Seen things no bobblehead should ever have to see.
Tits. So what happens now? There's buzzing outside. It's... suddenly a drone, here to save the day. And you'll never guess who it is. It's Cher!
Hey, Bubbles, how's it going?
We saw this earlier. She's from the Bobblehead High Council and ready to help, I guess. Beckoning Juice to finally do a stunt correctly after we all learned he's a poser, and he does so. She informs them of the correct bobble code, you know.
The bobble creed is simple. Bubbles, bobble, and bring joy.
Truly an inspiration. Also, she has just been spying on them the whole time? How does Cher know they were struggling with the creed earlier? Or whatever. She has a pep talk for everyone. Deuce needs to practice, Skater Girl needs to stop avoiding who she's based off and be more herself, somewhere in the middle of that person and what she wants to be. Also, her name is Colony, and I cannot remember it very well. Brenda song. Robogirl learns it's about courage, not having an effective weapon. Ikioi, how am I supposed to learn these names? And Purbles needs to embrace being one of a kind. So, just a bunch of non-solutions. Nothing really applicable to the human invader thing, you know?
When you put your bobbleheads together, you can achieve anything.
Or you can just get tangled up. And then off she goes, a saving grace of a character to come in for plot's sake, or for cameo's sake, and then never to contribute or elaborate again. Apparently the idea of a shared animated presence was debated on for years, and this is what they settled on. Bobbleheads. And now they're ready, it's time to kick out the humans, just like they wanted to at the very start. Montage time. It's kind of a Home Alone moment. A collection of unconnected traps. Makes sense for a Toy Story. How has Pixar not done that either? I guess they like their creative integrity more. Anyway, Binky is plastered with gherkins and something in her boots. It begins. She's pelted with marbles, crashed down the stairs. That could seriously kill someone in their 30s. And then they...
Run, Macat! They're animatronic!
Well, one, they just copy the Home Alone feather formula, but also break the Toy Story rule and ruin their identity secret. Classic for losing the magic of kids' imagination for their toys. But it inspired Binky all the more to get her cat. It can go for so much more money now she knows that they actually move, stepping outside for some reason for the Bubbleheads to lock the door. And that's the movie sorted.
On your feet!
Wow, that's pretty nice and extreme. Finally, I can feel a hint of something in this movie. If not just despair for the state this is going to leave their laminated wood floorings in. But it's all or nothing time. How do you take down a deranged lawnmower-wielding human as a tiny little bobblehead? Oh, never mind. She's gone for the Hoover instead. The lawnmower's disappeared. And the crappy voice acting is still there. I hadn't forgotten. It's constant. In case you got used to it.
You mess with the Bink, you go in the sink.
Huh! And she's full on ready to maim anything that's not valuable. Nice! It's time for a brawl. Macat, still an awful name, bites the ankles and flings around the room. Deuce catches the others in a bowl. Binky believes it's space aliens and spins Deuce for a while, leaving the others to their own accord, and they...
Find friend object!
Oh no. Oh no. I get the idea, but they shove a carbonated drink can into the microwave to use as a projectile. You can't put that in a kids movie. That is so irresponsible. Not because kids can now be armed with flying cans, but because that's just not what happens. This would cause an explosion, or at least a fire. You can't teach kids this is a viable method. This movie is lucky the demographic doesn't have the height to reach the microwave. Otherwise, this is so apprehensible. Casanov, what are you doing? I know it's questioned whether you were an arsonist to your own studio, but don't teach kids it. Anyway, it does the job. She runs out, fearing aliens, manages to instantly catch Macat like it was nothing. Wasn't all the action about this moment anyway?
I'm out of here. Come on, kitty!
And then Inky-Oi has a final moment.
Stand down, human!
This is meant to be character development. And also, this works. Partially. But to wrap it all together, as Inky-Oi scarpers around all of Binky's body parts, Colony and Deuce take on the roller coaster from the very start of the film, of course. Oh, but also they crash halfway through, because every story beat, of course, has to take a 70-second detour, eventually finishing up with a romance beat in there, a smaller roller coaster, and a thwip to save the cat.
This is it!
But it's not over yet, as the gang are all now down to the ground. It's a 4v1, and how else do you beat a giant human than by using a glowing yo-yo that I just didn't mention back in the vent days. And a baseball player toy finally living up to his role with... and adding one final pun with...
Guys, Tower of Bobble!
Not really needed, but they tower up and bash her in the butt, because, as we all know, humans are practically defeated once you knock them over once. What? They can just do that? Okay. And though Earl shows no sense of dominance or authority, he hasn't forgiven Binky. He's taken her to jail. Though you can barely tell if you weren't listening to his direct words at the very end of his sentence.
The bad news, it's got a lot of bars on the windows.
How did the dog go to the car, open the boot, untie Earl, and let him through the door? I guess we'll never know. When your audience hasn't developed object permanence yet, you don't need to know. And so their human trouble is gone for good. They're briefly sad because Deuce was taken with them, but they clean up the house, fix the roller coaster. Actually, they only fix the roller coaster. Drop one more pun.
Brace you!
Not fair. You got a bobblehead start.
And the family returns home. Fish feeder inexplicably fixed, daughter happy after some off-camera friends were made, and the Bobbleheads accidentally made the roller coaster non-fatal. Earl appears to gift away Deuce, and as the dad learns about the cat's price, he comes out with...
A cat? I'd never sell him. Audrey loves him, so he's priceless.
And also all the others were bought at life events, so they're all special. Dad had 3 life events, and they're all now a big happy family. Also Cher is on the computer randomly now. She needs dancers for the, Well, at least they address that they're not good dancers, not the full DreamWorksism. I'm gonna be honest, I started this video in April. I kind of switched off from this movie right around the Joss Whedon moment and picked it up over 5 months later. Like, what actually happened over this movie? Humans invaded, they wanted to get them out, Cat stole a gift, they returned it, they took him out again for a date, scared the humans, they reverted and stuck around, Cher was there, and then they kicked them out for good. And somehow the one task took 90 minutes and a whole lot of fluff. This movie isn't trying to be something stark, it's another classic case of a simple, basic, stupid movie for a simple, basic, stupid audience. It's aimed at kids, and really young ones, and because of that, it feels like it can get away with making something uninspired. The music is barely there. The story is just tropes upon tropes. And it's hopping off at the success of Toy Story with none of the ingenuity. Just an animation simulation on those damn heads. They bubble! Wowee! Unless they animated them manually, in which case I feel so sorry for the animators. This is Baby's emoji movie. Toy Story for dummies. This is like trying to monetize a movie out of Uno or something. Which they are doing, by the way. Mattel's gone mad with 45 new movies planned post-Barbie. Hot Wheels, the movie. Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the movie. And a horror film based on the Magic 8 Ball. Yeah, I'm gonna have loads of terrible episodes to bounce off from. Maybe the concept of Bobbleheads was interesting, but making a quick buck was all the intention, and so obviously, the results that come out is nothing more than terrible. Thankfully, this wasn't Brenda Song's last song call. She did The Quarry 2 years later, so she still got it. Jennifer Coolidge was also Binky. Oh, how easy it must be to get big names when you're gunning for something quick. Hey, you remember that time that Disney released a copycat of Madagascar the year after Madagascar came out? I certainly didn't. I'd vaguely heard of this movie, but it was literally only last week when I actually realized it wasn't a thrown-together, straight-to-DVD rip-off to capitalize on DreamWorks' success, but an actual bona fide theatrically released movie from the actual Walt Disney Studios? Not to mention the fact, it's directed by the guy who animated the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. This is indeed, and I have no idea how I didn't actually know about this before, Disney's The Wild. Released in 2006, so yes, 1 year later, this movie also follows a group of animals from the Central Park Zoo, including a lion protagonist, a health-conscious giraffe with an interspecies will they won't they side plot, as well as some zany penguins on the side. It's about them breaking out of the zoo to carry out a rescue mission, going on about the wild before finding themselves on a boat across the ocean that leads them to a remote island with an isolated tribe of animals with a catchy, annoying song. Yeah, it's totally a different movie. Totally not been a script leak going on somewhere along the lines. So the movie begins with, fun fact, the very last Disney animation theatrical release to use this old logo. I watched the beginning of Meet the Robinsons just after this, both to check the logo and to wash out my brain after this god-awful movie, and yeah, the new logo's right there. What a horrendous send-off. But even still, it has a nice little joke attached to it, as we get a little bit of cheeky voiceover from Samson the lion. And as it gets interrupted, we have the little spot on the Disney logo stopping and restarting again. It's a pretty fun touch. It's a nice little joke, okay? I'll allow it. And it's the kind of thing you can only really do with this old Disney logo, so maybe it wasn't such a waste after all. Anyway, the narration then takes us into some pretty nice abstract recreation of presumably the African savannah, but to get the name check in early, it's of course only described as
The Wild.
And in case you did miss what this movie's called, don't worry, they're going to be bringing it up quite a lot. And then for the rest of this opening, I actually really, really love it. We essentially get what I probably would have rathered the whole movie to look like. Admittedly, it does get a little bit weird when completely ripped kaiju wildebeest occurs, but it's still a pretty damn cool sequence and a real powerhouse of animation going on in there. And then, right soon afterwards, we get... Yeah, get used to that same cat soundbite as well, because they went cheap when it comes to the sound design. In fact, just get used to multiple returns to the well of character makes embarrassing noise followed by all the other characters laughing at them. I'm pretty sure it happens like 4 different times in the movie. It doesn't get good at any point, because if you hadn't seen that trope happen in a movie before, do not worry, they have very much covered it here and buried it deep into the ground. We also then get to see that Samson here has his son Ryan. Alongside being a Madagascar reference now, it's also a Lion King Mufasa Simba reference, I guess. Which is a very interesting particular choice because even though it's very clearly a different story, you may not from the marketing perspective want your early CG efforts to be compared to one of your all-time greatest 2D movies ever. You know, maybe steer away from having a lion father and son as the protagonists. Or heck, maybe they just wanted to relive the good times. This is not the good times. The imaginary laughing wildebeest then transpire to actually be zoo visitors laughing at him. Initially, it looks like Samson's almighty roar is to stop them laughing at his son. However, as soon as they start cheering, he goes into full paparazzi look-at-me mode whilst his son's just still right there. Wow, he's combining both the same character as Alex from Madagascar and a terrible dad. Disney hates fathers in this time period, huh? Good to know they've continued off straight from where Chicken Little left it. What a legacy for this new era of Disney to kick off with. This sequence also gives us an early hint of what's to come, which is you never actually see a single human face in this movie. Yes, the tiny production houses behind this clearly hadn't quite cracked animating humans yet, so the most you'll ever see is either humans from the back or the shoulders down. You can either be Toy Story, where you do try and animate humans in 1995, where you're clearly not ready to, or you can be Core Animation Studios and just go, yeah, that's beyond us, we're just gonna skip that. And even then, the little of the humans you do see are somewhere between The Sims 2 and the little train driver figures in Thomas the Tank Engine. Clearly, all the movie was spent on the fur of this modestly animated lion, and not the immediate cutaway to this red jumper guy doing the Nelson pointing. By the way, with his arm fully stretched over the fence of the lion enclosure, yeah, I'm sure that couldn't go wrong in reality. Also, why is there only a child-high fence in front of the man-eating lions? I think it was the same thing in Madagascar, but even still. Anyway, we then have some father and son dialogue that really elects to spell out the insecurities of stock sound effect shrieking Ryan here.
Your roar stops a herd of wildebeest. Mine makes the babies laugh.
And to be fair, Samson does show some signs of being a supportive dad, clearly more than my boy Buck Clark. Anyway, following more back and forth of Ryan wanting to more properly roar, whilst really laying on thick how they're really connecting the movie's themes to the title.
If you really wanted me to roar like you, you'd take me to
the wild.
But from there, we go to meet Benny the Squirrel, after already title dropping twice in the first opening 5 minutes. Anyway, here's Benny.
Rats do not got bling like this.
And believe me, this necklace stealing sequence won't be the last time we see him bothering female characters. It is notably dated. You can just tell the moment his Jim Belushi voiced self lands in Samson's nostrils, he's going to be the annoying sidekick the entire time through this movie. Arguably, there's a few contenders for that role, but we'll get there. And after Samson chomps on a steak that they for some reason refer to as a rabbit, even though it's very clearly a steak there, we then go to the animals take over the zoo once the humans are gone sequence. Weirdly announced by the squirrel counting down to when
the zoo will officially be ours.
When he's the one animal not limited to the confines of the zoo, but alright. We're then introduced to all the other characters we'll be following, including the one vague memory I have from the trailer of the koala getting his butternut squashed by a bar. Great. All of these characters, by the way, some of them are relevant, half of them are not. Half of them will only be here in this opening zoo sequence and then we'll practically never see them again. We then immediately see that koala getting beaten up by some flamingos with all the sound effects of a preschool TV show.
Really nice day.
And also, when they were casting this koala, I like to think that the production team had no idea that Eddie Izzard wasn't Australian. Either that or Eddie Izzard was actually doing an accent and I just didn't notice because it was that weak, but eesh, sorry Eddie. They just heard a slightly rougher English accent and thought, yeah, that sounds about right. We also get our first tease of the squirrel's obsession with Bridget the giraffe saying,
oh, I almost forgot to tell you. I'm gonna ask Bridget out, finally.
And though Samson points out that they're different species, we all know Melman and Gloria have proven that anything's possible. We even get the classic bump into your love interest followed by romantic music motif. Sometimes I think I hate 2006. Well done, movie. You're getting all the ticks on the movie tropes bingo card. True to form, we also get a...
Don't stare at my spots, Benny. My eyes are up here.
Oh, of course.
Followed by the damn squirrel completely evading Bridget, clearly setting her boundaries, which persistently reoccurs as his favorite thing to do. That's a fun recurring gag in a Disney movie. Oh, but don't worry, this is a movie of completely sound writing, so she won't just give in to him at the end of the movie. Will she? We cut to a hippo and a kangaroo doing a dude we're so in sync bit to quickly set up their brief existence in this movie. Anyway, from there, you'll never guess where this movie goes. We are then blessed with a bizarre tournament of what I guess is ice curling in the penguins' enclosure. I guess it makes more sense than the surfing penguins in Surf's Up, but hey, at least that was a good movie. Like the human version of curling, they have a full ice rink with correct markings all there somehow, as well as the sweeps. But the cartoon logic just ended there, so they had to settle for tortoises as the projectiles. And in said tournament, we get the full assembly of our core cast: the lion, the koala, the snake, the giraffe, and the urban squirrel. Man, just writes itself, doesn't it? As does the squirrel calling Bridget his girlfriend, her saying he's not, followed by him then getting squished by her butt, swiftly revealed to be clearly into it, so much so that he then kisses her without any consent whatsoever. Walt Disney Pictures The Wild, everybody. So we then get to enjoy watching them play this game for what feels like 10 minutes, which is totally made worth it with the introduction of the secret play.
Hey everybody, guess what? We're gonna use the secret play!
The secret play being use the snake as a catapult, obviously. All the while, everyone around Samson keeps bringing up his son as an embarrassment because, you know, apparently this zoo's like the whole town of Chicken Little. Again. But not to worry, they win the game with the little tortoise they use to curl farting itself to victory. Great. My favorite kind of humor. Meanwhile, with Ryan, the Chicken Little stand-in himself does a beat-for-beat recreation of the Nemo abduction scene, right down to the three quirky friends ushering Ryan away to touch the butt. In this case, the butt is roaring at a herd of gazelles because why not completely lift a moment from The Lion King? Also, in the logic of these animals, do these gazelles not think and talk and interact? Why aren't they at the curling tournament? And why would it be that only these gazelles are scared by the cubs roaring unless everyone's not expecting the roar to not be good, even though it's clearly established and everyone's already making jokes about it from the entire zoo population bagging on this child? What is going on here? It's just famous scenes being ripped off by themselves at this point. And what do you know? He roars again. It's just as lame as before. In fact, it's the identical sound effect of a cat. So the dad comes back and berates him for it. Parenting. Easy. To be fair, at least in one step ahead of Chicken Little this time, he did actually feel bad about it once he said it.
I'm thinking how great it would be if Samson
The Wild
wasn't my father.
Huh?
So now, as we reach the fourth title drop in this movie, already, we get the family fallout sequence to get the next tick on the movie trope bingo card. We also get a tease that there is a great truth that Samson hasn't told Ryan. We'll note that down for later. And of course, it couldn't be a mid-tier animated movie from the 2000s without following up the falling out scene with an emotional montage to the tune of an emo pop rock band that presumably needed some extra cash. In this instance, that band in question is Lifehouse. Anyway, the song would get the of its time scapegoat, but unfortunately, Over the Heads dropped a banger of a soundtrack in the same year from Mr. Ben Folds, so. Anyway, the song happens. It's, you know, forgettable. During which Ryan gets in a green container of some sort. However, shock and horror, the container's being driven away. He's then like, I changed my mind, I don't want to go. At which point, we then learn that the container would take him to the wild. The storyline might be so far exactly identical to Finding Nemo, but somehow it's triple the length in runtime. It's almost like Finding Nemo is much more concise in its storytelling. Following this attempt at emotion, we then get the words we've all been waiting for, by which I mean...
Get me? The pigeons.
Because yes, following this, somehow, we have arrived at the questionably realized pigeons. We've got some generic Indian music blasting out as Himir the pigeon here speaks in what is supposed to be a heavy Indian accent. And I've done the research. The voice of the main pigeon here goes by the name of David Cowgill, a very, very white man.
You are the great loser of all time!
And that's not even the weirdest bit. So, for the plot, the pigeons are here to help the zoo animals get directions round New York, right? A role that, in Madagascar, was fulfilled by a police horse that Marty asked for directions. Our boy David Cowgill also voiced that police horse.
If you hit the Chrysler building, you've gone too far.
This guy just knows his way around New York, I guess, no matter what reality he's in. I just kinda wish he'd stuck to his own ethnicity. Anyway, between the problematic dialogue and constant screaming, they get the information they need from the pigeons. And those pigeons never come back again, just randomly in there. Like most of the animals we've already seen up to this point. Then a few more minutes pass of even more setup and planning, as we have that classic boring characters work out what they're doing dialogue before Samson does the obvious "I'm doing this alone" thing and jumps in a rubbish truck, whereby the others obviously ignore him, yet somehow he gets into this rubbish truck without noticing the snake, koala, and giant giraffe that's also in there alongside him. The giraffe knocks the squirrel off of the truck, presumably so she can get 10 minutes without him advancing on her. And then the koala pops up in a popcorn bucket.
I've got popcorn up my bum. Do I look trashy in this?
Oh god, it really is one of these movies. And then more stupid stuff like that happens. The giraffe tries to tell everyone to duck as a tunnel's coming, whilst being slow to duck herself, despite being the only one animal that actually definitely needs to duck in this situation. We're then treated to the characters admiring the nighttime sights of New York City with the backing of a Coldplay song. Classic 2006. AI could never. And once they eventually get off this rubbish truck, they're chased by 3 dogs because, you know, the lion and the snake would be running away in this situation. And they come to the conclusion,
now jump!
Down there?
By improvising, that means pinching the only female character here on her backside. Yikes. Those dogs as well, we'll never see again. I don't even know if they're just full of cameo appearances, or if the writers just don't know what they're doing with all their characters. They just chucked in every animal they could. Maybe they just got a batch of models and wanted to use them all, I don't know. Now, if anyone saw the movie's poster at the time, it would not be beyond reasonable to presume that based on said poster, featuring alligators coming out from the sewers below the main characters, that they were going to feature as key antagonists in this movie, right? Well, here they are. They're in it for about 2 minutes as well. Even better, they're not even villains like the poster implied. It's just a complete bait and switch where they're just initially misunderstood. I guess they're trying to contrast that it was the evil dogs, but surely the evil poodle would have been funnier if you'd met the friendly alligators first. I don't know, I would have found that more funny. In a better movie anyway. Also, speaking about this poster, sure is funny how the background is all New York, and yet the plot is actually not really going to be set in New York for much longer. Anyway, the alligators put on their best New York stereotypes for a couple minutes, give them more directions, and sod off, because the pigeons weren't enough to do that role.
That's one of them talking koala bears!
Oh, I'm so cuddly. I like you.
We then transition to the morning, evading any obligation to explain how these animals got round New York City without being spotted and caught. And I mean, as we've established, this movie makes no attempt at human characters. Alas, they can't have those moments in Madagascar of humans reacting to these animals casually walking around. You know, a very classic jumping off point for some comedy, maybe. But I haven't heard much comedy yet, other than popcorn in the butthole. And yet, for a movie also going for animals bringing out the zoo to go to the big city, it completely glazes over their journey through the big city. As immediately, they've made it to the harbor. I mean, I get it if that was extra padding you didn't need for the plot, but if that's the case, don't put the silhouette of the city in the logo of the movie if it's barely in there. Or how about cut out all the other scenes that are clearly more padding than the one that would actually be interesting to see? Madagascar, by its namesake, largely takes place in a completely different location, and yet, for the opening third of the movie, you get a better sense of New York City than in this movie, which made New York actively part of its marketing. But yes, they're at the harbor, Walmart, Simba, all packed and ready to go. And of course, they miss the boat just by the second, which leads to the incredibly layered piece of writing.
I failed. Again.
But then they have a brilliant idea. Remember the bit in that other movie from last year where the penguins hijacked the boat? Why can't we just do that? So they do that. And in doing so, we get to see just how determined the animators are to avoiding having to deal with a human face, as this guy screams at the lion, flaps his arms in the air, awkwardly walks sideways because he's not allowed to run away from them and show us his face. He then walks into the hose pipe, which miraculously flips him into the air and into the water. He does a full flip in the air, and yet we still don't see... Oh my god. Anyway, faceless Frankie falls off the boat and they're good to go. Well, Samson tries to explain to the snake how to steer the boat before demonstrating he was clearly capable of doing it himself. Because, you know, that's one of the known natural instincts a lion has. The koala pisses himself, and then they allegedly lose track of Ryan's boat. Have no fear, sex pest squirrel is here. Riding upon some geese with a shot that clearly shows that they should have been able to see the giant ship from where their boat is. They'll also go on to point that the boat went in that direction, which is incorrect compared to the shot they had before. And then one more sexual advance towards the giraffe later, we get one more title drop.
Sammy, we going to the
wild.
Now.
And we cut to an Indiana Jones map traveling sequence, followed by one shot of them in a dangerous storm. I don't know if it was meant to make you worried about the characters, because they spent absolutely no time on it, and it's already over. We do, however, get one shot of little Ryan looking scared of the storm from his boat. Not to worry though, we quickly cut back to a blue sky and everyone's fine. Remember the dynamic directions of maybe the Madagascar boxes sequence where they're all in different frames and there's some comedic elements of the giant giraffe put upside down and all the rest of it? You ain't gonna get any of that here. And it's funny to talk about the directing because there's actually a pretty great director involved in this movie, as this is the directorial debut of the guy behind the groundbreaking animation of Jurassic Park, Steve Spaz Williams. And before I go further, that is a name that may come across as offensive in the UK, so I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole here, but just so British viewers are aware, it is absolutely not the same thing in the US. Nonetheless, I'm from now on just going to call him Steve. Steve is a legend in the visual effects industry. The dinosaur animation of Jurassic Park completely changing the game for CGI animation, and the movie industry was just never the same again after the incredible work that he did. And yet, that bold and completely accurate statement of his impact on Hollywood becomes all the more baffling when you look at the quality of the animation in this movie. There are some incredibly dodgy shots in this movie, and certainly none of that flourish from Madagascar. Anyway, the koala has a brief sequence of cabin fever, which, hey, Eddie Izzard at least attempted to make fun.
Stop laughing at us, you solar twit!
Then, finally, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Swim!
Nigel?
Welcome to Madagascar.
Especially considering you can only see the lion and the giraffe in this shot, it's hard to say which movie we're looking at here. Oh wait, don't worry, it's the second Jurassic World movie, that's what we're looking at.
Whoa, wait. Those animals are being rescued.
To be fair, in this instance, you could say that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom ripped off the wild, which is a badge of honor no one wants. Anyway, yeah, turns out these containers are loading up animals from this island and taking them all to Central Park Zoo? Is that the implication here? Couldn't we just move these animals to a wildlife reserve nearby instead of using this natural disaster as a battery farm for American zoos? It does seem like a lot of plot armor to make it not seem so bad that the humans are taking the animals. And this doesn't come back. They're just bye-bye. But yes, that's the extra twist. There's now a volcano involved, which seemed like a completely rogue escalation for this movie. And inevitably, when his container gets dropped on the island, Ryan gets scared by an elephant and runs away into the jungle. And I think that's another issue throughout this massive fever dream. With Finding Nemo, you felt the threat because there was an active force that grabbed him and took him away from Marlin. When Marlin finally reaches him in Sydney, there's some active tension as Darla has Nemo in the bag and the human characters are an actual obstacle. Here, Ryan just kind of strolled into the lorry and accidentally got taken away. It still creates a dilemma, sure, but there's less of a punch to his separation from Samson. You can kind of just imagine that if he was spotted, he'd be put right back in a container and returned for just, you know, existing. And when Ryan arrives on the island, Samson's already there and just kind of watches him run into the jungle. Again, it's a dilemma, sure, but you don't really feel any force separating them other than writing themselves into corners. There's no active antagonism. It's just kind of happening without that extra level of stakes. And it's all because this movie refuses to deal with animating human characters. They're a completely passive part of the story, and yet the movie still needs human activity to move its story forwards. On top of that, throughout Finding Nemo, we see how the obstacles he faces fundamentally evolves him as a character and a father. Here, Samson just has one big secret, and his arc is just telling his son his secret. Whilst we do see the resolution to that eventually, there is absolutely no growth to these two characters until they meet each other again. With Nemo and Marlin, they'd also grow in the time they were apart. But as you may have guessed, they then start chasing him through the jungle towards the volcano and... oh boy, yeah, there's this bit.
Ryan!
This Australian guy, which, despite setting up that this place is somewhere off of South Africa, like a certain other island I know, does make this place immediately feel like it's somewhere down under instead. Not to mention that casting choice when you also have decided to have a British koala in the main ensemble. We have a couple minutes of toilet humor, then we have a weird moment where the whole squad, all but one are herbivores themselves, starts to cheer on Samson to eat the little Australian guy. I guess it's to continue to set up the idea that he's not actually from the wild subplot, sure, but it's just such a strange beat where they're all cheering him on to kill this guy when none of these animals are canonically killers. And it gets even worse. Samson refuses to eat him, which he gets offended by and proceeds to get excited by the idea of being eaten. Yeah.
I am a delicacy. My flesh is fruity wood note!
So we now have a squirrel who likes to be sat on, and whatever species this is meant to be, getting off on the idea of being eaten. I feel like I'm learning too much about these writers. Who'd have thought 2006 Disney was into vor? Anyway, he runs away whilst making little fart noises upon exit because, sure, that tracks with the rest of the movie's humor.
Don't bother, I'm leaving!
You're weird. And then we finally get Samson's confession.
You're not from
the wild. I'm not from the wild.
Wow, that was correct. I can't believe it. I guess it counts as a thematic choice if you shove the title down the viewers' throats every 10 minutes.
The wild.
And so he walks away from the others to feel sorry for himself, as the others legitimately give us a string of dialogue that genuinely includes...
How could he lie to us?
We're his best friends.
I don't think it's safe to say you could work out the rest of the scene from there. They head back for the boat, despite the fact that Ryan has nothing to do with his dad lying, but hey, I guess screw him anyway. And then once again, after trying to make him and Bridget a thing, the squirrel manages to turn the gang around. Time for Samson to talk out loud, because there's no way to show he's worried with purely visual storytelling. He's always gotta be talking.
I mean, how big can this place be anyway?
Oh no!
Back to Ryan, we have a hippo attempt to full-on ass slam a child. Shame the squirrel wasn't around for a piece of that. Bridget the giraffe is giving the squirrel the silent treatment, which you can only spot because she's literally saying that to him out loud. And this is the point that they start to set up that she's starting to like him back, which I think we can all agree is a great example for respecting boundaries to kids everywhere. It doesn't matter, barely any of them saw this movie. I didn't even know this existed at the time. I was 10. And then, finally now, over an hour into this movie, the villains are introduced. And the villains are a tribe of wildebeest in the jungle. Now, I'm not a zoologist by any means, but I had a quick Google on this to confirm, and wildebeests are predominantly found on grassy plains or an open woodland. I'm not sure this dense jungle comes across as open woodland. Anyway, this is the movie that had the lion driver boat, so I guess we can overlook it. Even so, this is just way too late to be introducing a villain. We introduced a million characters that didn't matter, and maybe some of the characters that do matter now. We're already halfway through the damn movie. Anyway, the gang, as I seem to now be calling them, get abducted by the wildebeest tribe, and the third act begins to roll into place.
Just, hey, back off.
Turns out that the wildebeest tribe have based themselves in the volcano and they have an annoying song. It's not Julian's I Like to Move It, which is actually iconic. Instead, they have a song that is just a tad irritating.
I'm having a...
And then upon researching this movie, I then came on to find that was indeed written by Monty Python legend Eric Idle. Sorry, Eric, it wasn't your best work. But don't take it personally, because no one had their finest hour making this movie. After minutes of wildebeest chanting, and I quote, really nice day, we meet the head honcho, who, to be fair, has an introduction that did make me chuckle.
Khazar, leader, prophet, choreographer.
Then the motives kick in. These wildebeest want to become carnivores. We also get to learn that they see Nigel the koala as some kind of god. Because again, every trope in the book has been thrown into this movie. Disney were clearly desperate when they made this. Depressed, we then see Samson drop shrooms.
Use your instincts. Okay.
Anyway, you may be wondering why Nigel and the Wilderboys are finding him to be a god. Well, it's because apparently a cuddly toy merchandise from the zoo landed onto the head honcho's head back in the day when he was about to be killed, and thus he must be a prophet of some kind. And honestly, I really liked this head wildebeest character. It's like someone much funnier wrote all of his bits, as he had some actually genuine great lines.
We found a lion cub.
You did?
He's also voiced by William Shatner, and in case you didn't know, he had another voice acting gig that year as the voice of the possum in Over the Hedge.
Must move toward the light.
Anyway, our boy gets real excited when he learns that lions are on the table and sends some vultures after him because the vultures have just become subservient to the wildebeest for some reason along the way. The real carnivores in this whole dynamic. Nigel also suddenly forgets all the friendship that's ever been established across the movie in a very baseline kids movie way with a curling championship and whatnot, but it's been established nonetheless, and he becomes mad with power. The koala's a dictator now. Good for him. Honestly, I'm zoned out at this point. Now to be referred to as the Great Him, as they keep calling him. Which is surprisingly ironic considering the Great Him is casted into now Eddie Susan Izzard. Fair play, Eddie. I'm sorry you were a part of this movie. Anyway, we then switch back to another Ryan does the same stock cat sound effect again, and some characters laugh at him because we really needed to revisit that beat again. The big emotional beat central to this story is that this guy can't roar properly, but it's also kind of played for laugh. It's very confusing. It's also not very funny. Apparently, when you repeat the same gag an hour later when it wasn't funny in the first place, it's quite hard to laugh at again, or for the first time. Combining a gag with a reoccurring character flaw can work, but absolutely doesn't here. Anyway, finally, we get the very overly complicated reunion of Samson and Ryan. For 10 seconds, before we get another return to the well of the Mufasa Simba pastiche.
What's going on?
Just get up into that tree.
However, instead of Samson's brother murdering off from a cliff face, we get a flashback to the circus. Wait a minute, Madagascar 3 had a circus too. I guess it turns out that DreamWorks is the one ripping off Disney since this is 2006. Madagascar 3 doesn't exist yet. Anyway, the flashback shows us that Ryan wasn't the only lion with a terrible cat sound effect for a voice. Samson was once the same. Ah yes, that is the central plot line for the whole movie. Wow, isn't it beautiful? I mean, you've got to say they tried to elevate the domesticated zoo lion goes to the wild story a bit beyond Madagascar with the family-son dynamic. However, the result is a storyline that we've already seen in many other shapes and sizes. How many times have we seen this reveal that the main character isn't all he's cracked up to be trope? I mean, for a start, we've already had this scene once before in this movie already. Though at the very least, this is the more impactful of the two. And I guess for the kids watching, I guess you could say that it delivers the message in a clear and simple way, but God is it basic. And so with that, even Samson's father goes on to say,
I should have known.
Happily getting taken off into a separate cage and abandons his own child. Also, where are the mothers in this life? Where is Samson's mother and where is Ryan's? I don't know, lions only come in male. It's funny as well, his dad also says specifically the line,
If you'd been born in the wild, you'd know how to roar.
Not his fault, my guy. You are literally responsible for his birth. It's not the child's fault that he's been put into a human circus. And actually, going back to the whole mother thing, where are the female characters in general in this movie? The only two I can remember from this movie are the giraffe and the offensive pigeon Hamir's wife. Crazy in this Disney movie, all we've had is a wife and a character who's consistently been hit on by a squirrel since the opening 10 minutes. Oof. And unfortunately, the only other woman in the cast list has been put into the role of the Great Him. Anyway, the wildebeest start headbutting the tree down.
Not so fast, Tigger.
Oh, okay. I guess wildebeests have an understanding of pop culture that extends to Winnie the Pooh? Who would have thought? What does this mean for the reality of this world? I don't have the motivation to go deep diving into Disney's The Wild even further than this. And no fake out this time, Samson fulfills that Mufasa motif and gets knocked off of a cliff and survives. I get it was this time by the wildebeest, there wasn't a stampede at the bottom, but come on, guys. I swear I'm not advocating for this guy to die, but you know. Anyway, Samson survives a straight drop straight off a cliff, and Ryan gets kidnapped properly this time. Now that we've hit that beat, we go back to the squirrel being mistaken for a ball of feces. I mean, to be fair, easily done. There's some interplay with some dung beetles being characterized as Germans in Lederhosen. obviously. And once again, they'll never come back. And apparently now, the squirrel only just notices that his friends are gone. I felt like 20 minutes ago, my man. I guess it's just my time perception being completely abused by this movie.
Bridget! Larry! Sam!
Ryan's taken to the wildebeest's lair in the volcano. Ryan reveals his hypothesis that his dad has died, with all the emotions of someone whose train's been delayed. Like, he's a bit disheartened, but we're talking about a child who's supposed to think his dad has been killed. He does the, oh, my dad can't help because he's a fake instead. Like, did you not notice that that lion drove a boat across the Atlantic Ocean because you stopped out and slept in a lorry? Put some respect on his name, my god. There's then the Patrick Warburton wildebeest who gets moved faster with yet another cartoony sound effect. Don't worry, he survives the fall as well. And they even have him shout out to really emphasize that they're not committing to a character death. We come back to the squirrel, now finding the alive Samson, and then for one more thing we have on the cliche monologue bingo card, we have the whole element of the squirrel saying, it's what's inside that counts, he needs you, Blumble. Man, my bingo card's getting too full at this point. And now they give the lion more drugs.
My, instincts?
Just kidding, turns out it's actually chameleons, of course.
Our names aren't important. I'm Cloak, he's Camo.
Conveniently for this movie's plot, they have the ability to change color of everything around them as well, including going actually completely invisible. Genuinely, it's probably the most creative use of animals in this entire movie. Doesn't necessarily make sense, and it's kind of a plot device, but it's the closest thing to a real praise I've got for the rest of this movie, other than the opening wildebeest sequence. And then we get the grand reveal of Nigel to the others, now fully in his Darth Vader era.
Why, you little...
Silence again!
Slapping the only female character before getting his act together and starts trying to waylay them being cooked alive. That was a very quick arc. Is that meant to be the character? Well, it's done now. To be fair, the joke where Nigel tries to slow them down by suggesting onions, only for them to immediately produce an onion, is pretty decent. Samson does a failed entry where these superpowered chameleons are able to make him invisible. And now here we are, the final failed roar, and they use a different cat sound.
Ryan, no!
Well done, movie. You used stock sound too. And so it is the big final fight. And as Samson and the big boy wildebeest do fight, we get the inevitable reintroduction, the only thing that really ties this whole movie together, of the secret play. Oh boy, I'm excited to see how they get to make that make sense. We then get a homage to the Mufasa death scene again? What is that, like the 6th time we've covered that this movie? I don't think they're all intentional, but they're certainly all there. And I think this one is definitely deliberate, particularly the callback with Simba in the climax. It's not ripping off Madagascar if you're ripping off yourself.
Why don't we use the secret play?
Okay. It is the secret play. Fair enough. Successfully shoehorned in there.
We gotta find something bigger!
I know where we can find something bigger.
Oh no. So then we get to the scene that could have been the dramatic it's game over moment for Samson, that then at the last minute Ryan jumps in from the shadows to save the day and is miraculously now able to do that roar that he's had no ability to do the whole movie. Yeah, unfortunately, they splice in just before the shot of Ryan in full secret play position, so there's absolutely no dramatic tension there at all. It's like having the moment in Toy Story 3 where they're all about to burn, but then splicing in shots of the aliens climbing into the crane moments before. What am I saying? Am I expecting this movie to make those kind of choices? Of course not. But yeah, he does the big ol' roar, because if you can't roar in the same way everyone else can, that's not okay, and you should conform to the version of yourself that society wants. We get a wholesome father-son moment that is kind of nice. And then we get the villain army turns on villain moment, a homage to Lion King, not a rip-off. And then we get a wonder of nature, the lion's roar with actual airbending powers. They then leave my boy for dead, as in, really, the volcano explodes on him. He is definitely dead. They get on a boat, and that's it. I also thought there was going to be a whole thing about a giant stalactite falling on them. They show several shots of it, and then I don't think it ever does. All right, then. And also, that's not quite the ending, as we then get more of that incredible, really nice day song. I'm sorry, Eric. It's no always look on the bright side of life ending. Nor is it I like to move it. Bridget the giraffe decides she wants to move it with the squirrel in the end. I guess when you hassle someone enough, you get what you want. And that's exactly what the kids leaving this movie were thinking.
Cha-cha, really nice day. Pretty wild.
And that was, as the trailer puts it, Walt Disney Pictures proudly presents
The Wild.
Clearly and easily, Disney's terrible Madagascar ripoff. And just to emphasize my commitment to this channel, I watched this on my 28th birthday. I could have done anything with this day, but no. I went, gather round, friends, it's time to watch The Wild. And it's such a shame because, again, our pal Steve here was so instrumental in changing the visual effects and animation industry, and it must have leapt at the opportunity of doing a Disney animation movie. He just came at a time where they were collaborating with 4 other production houses because they were completely gunning out their animation department. However, as they probably should have learned their lesson from Ants and A Bug's Life, they really should just know that copying a rival never ends well. You're Disney, for God's sake. You don't need to copy anyone. But regardless, this was clearly a very tumultuous time at Disney that finally retired that old Disney logo, and also is the first movie post-Michael Eisner was Meet the Robinsons. So surely it only goes up from here, right? Yeah, right. I also read through some reviews at the time, and critics were equally perplexed about this, all of them essentially saying this is just an inferior version of Madagascar. And what was particularly humiliating for Disney as well is that when The Wild opened at the US box office, Ice Age 2 beat it in its 3rd week of release, so it never came out anywhere close to #1 and was instantly squashed by everything around it. With The Wild opening in 4th place behind Ice Age, Benchwarmers, and the all-time classic, Scary Movie 4. Oof. Man, what went so wrong? Do you know this exists? I didn't know this existed until very recently when I found a giant advert for this film on the side of an Edinburgh bus. I mean, I guess it makes sense. The Lego Movie was an outstandishly fresh movie idea with some witty humor, crazy story, and greatly detailed animation, even frame by frame. So of course it only comes naturally that Lego's unwanted cousin will try and take a piece of the pie too, I guess. The Playmobil Movie. A friend of mine told me that this film was commissioned about 3 weeks after the Lego Movie came out, and I'm not even gonna fact check it, because it sounds about right. This movie is blatantly and shamelessly trying to recapture the magic that the original Lego Movie had, although it reached the big screens a whopping 5 years late. The Playmobil Movie has had a rocky production period, to say the least, with it originally planning to come out 2 years ago in 2017. And thanks to companies going bankrupt, the US distribution rights are also problematic. So if you're in the US, you get to wait until all the way into December before you get the glorious eyesore hitting your screens. But don't worry, I'm here for you. I came to watch this film so that you don't have to. Yes, you're welcome, and I know I am part of the problem for buying tickets to this unearned cash grab. But hey, money I spent is money you don't have to. So let's actually delve into this film a little bit, shall we? The premise of the movie is that our protagonists, soon-to-be orphans Marla and Charlie, are sucked into the Playmobil world and must take on adventures to reunite, escape, and fix their relationship after the death of their parents 4 years ago. Already it sounds bare-bonesly interesting enough of an idea, if not just sounding like yet another generic isekai anime of this decade, but what splits it apart from all the rest is its creative use of absolutely nothing. Nothing about this film is wholly original, and it genuinely feels like you're being bashed around the head with an Argos catalogue. Thank you to whoever wrote that amazing description. This film was very much written by people who wanted to make another Lego Movie, but had no conceptual idea of what made the Lego Movie genuinely good. Part of what made the Lego Movie good was the way that it encapsulated that Lego-y world and feel without looking like one giant product placement. A simple one to go by, the animation of these two films. Both are fully CGI'd, but the Lego Movie goes above and beyond with its presentation by making every single frame look like it could have realistically been made through Lego stop motion. Headpieces disappear and reappear, and even when showing off the ocean, it's not made of water, it's made of blue Lego bricks to represent water. Meanwhile, once the Playmobil Movie goes into the Playmobil world, everything's just animated. That's about it, really. The water looks like water. The characters look like Playmobil characters, sure, but everything else just looks normal. And maybe that's just because the Playmobil set designs do just look like basic and plastic and uninteresting. But even if everything looked more plastic and fake, it could have been at least a little bit more interesting. Because after a while, even the characters stopped looking like Playmobil characters and just look like a new style of another generic kid-friendly animated movie. It just becomes normal looking. All the visual charm of the Lego Movie is entirely lost in the Playmobil Movie. Let's stop getting ahead of ourselves and start at the very beginning. The Playmobil movie very much likes to take its inspiration from the Lego movie by also showing off a hybrid genre of live action along with animation. Though instead of starting out in the toy world and expanding out into the real world like the Lego movie does, the Playmobil movie chooses to start from real life and dive in later. And this whole set design for the live action segments, for some reason just feel like it's been plucked right out of a Disney Channel film. It all just looks so plucky and fake. Anyway, it's here we meet Marla and Charlie, some happy-go-lucky people. Marla is about to head off to college, but she actually dreams of traveling the world, seeing the sights, and filling up all the pages in her passport. Oh, wouldn't that just be a dream? You know, if only there was a simple way to explain that desire of wanting to get out there and do more with your life than simply going back into education. Easier than just saying that life's boring if you don't go anywhere and don't do anything. Gap year. This whole prologue scene is one crazy long explanation of Marla's dream to go on a gap year. Though for the life of her, she can't actually articulate those simple words and must explain it in a pretty poorly written dialogue exchange with Charlie. Also something to note, did you know the Playmobil movie is a musical? I didn't watch any of the trailers properly for the Playmobil movie and pretty much went in entirely blind, but it certainly wasn't what I was expecting when Marla leaps onto her bed and sings her heart out about the big old exciting adventure she wants to have over a simple boring educational life in a stagnantly moving existence. Now the film only feels more like something out of the Disney Channel. Also, why exactly is this movie a musical? Do you think the writers just saw that the Lego movie had that one song and figured that they should do the same but with more? If it is inspired by the Lego movie, then this is about as close to a translation error as you can get, because the Lego movie is not a musical. But hey, I guess Playmobil just wanted to really appeal to kids with that extra little kick. It's a shame that none of the songs have any real appeal to stick into people's minds, and it's just a bit of exposition and easy jokes. Oh well. Anyway, we're now like 5 minutes into this film and we haven't seen anything Playmobil related just yet. But don't get too excited, because we next get a ham-fisted little play scene with Marla and Charlie playing with their Playmobil. You know, like every little family has been known to do. They show off their OC characters and finish their little quest with some super cool move that you can totally expect to show up at the end of the film to hit that acceptable writing quota or whatever. And then, like Disney clockwork, there's a knock at the door. It's the police. You can tell because the officers chose not to turn off their blinding lights even though they're just parked outside. They come with the news that Marla and Charlie's parents have been in a car accident and have since now died. Congratulations, you're real protagonists now. And then we cut to 4 years later. Man, there's a distinct lack of Playmobil going on right now. 4 years, really? At this point, the most we get is the occasional Playmobil character settled in a drawer or something, and it doesn't really translate well. If they were somehow magical characters watching the events like Toy Story or something, then it would at least be a little bit more interesting, but instead it just feels like awful product placement to remind you that you did in fact spend way too much money to see this damn film. Anyway, now the kids are depressed. Marla's abandoned her dreams to look after Charlie, and their relationship is strained. Charlie storms into his room and we soon enough find out that he's run away. Panicked, Marla chases after him and traces his phone. This doesn't really come up again. Like, there's a faint element of overprotective parenting, and later Charlie does half complain about the tracker by asking how on earth she found him, but it never gets addressed again. So forget that little plot point. It's only there to move the story forwards anyway. Yeah, get used to that. So Charlie is heading over to a friend's place, judging by his phone call, but he gets distracted by a giant T-Rex model being carted into the back of an upcoming toy complex. And he follows in, cause why wouldn't he? Also that phone friend, yeah, you can forget them too. By the end of the movie, their existence has vanished as well. Inside the complex, Charlie finds a massive Playmobil gallery with a giant world all placed around the hall. Marla soon catches up and confronts Charlie, who is enamored by the room, even going as far to say that the layout is exactly the same as the world they used to play in back in the day. What are the chances? He also whips out his OC Playmobil character, because of course he still has it on a keychain, even after 4 years have passed, and realizes there's even a spot for his character. It's almost like fate has brought them here in this exact time and place. So yes, while the Lego movie mostly explores all about the magic of imagination, the Playmobil movie goes into real life magic. And honestly, I don't hate that too much. It's a nice divergence from the Lego movie that could go in some interesting directions. Why did fate bring them to this point? Is it all just to solve Marla's depressing growth from grief? Is it some kind of parent intervention from the afterlife? Are every Playmobil toys enriched with magic? What controls the magic and what's its purpose? Don't think about it too hard, because that's not going to be answered either. Which I guess is fine. Sometimes that works. But for this film, it just feels like it's only there to move the plot forwards. Not even a hint is given, and it's basically forgotten by the end. So Charlie places his character into its spot, and the Playmobil lighthouse captures both of them and spits them into the Playmobil world, probably a solid 20 minutes into the film, and finally it can actually begin. All the baggage is out of the way. Marla plops in as herself, the quirky everywoman that has funny things happen to her. And Charlie crashes in as his OC Viking knight for some reason. I can't tell if it's because he brought his toy or because he still has his playful side, it's not really explained. So now comes the run-along theme of watching events pass by, never to be introduced again. Marla struggles to work out her new body, struggling to move her legs because they don't have knees, which I actually thought was slightly funny, but give it 30 seconds and she's running perfectly fine because she has to run away from the middle of the battle they've appeared in between. It's between the Vikings and the Scots. Marla hides in fear whilst Charlie joins the fight, discovering his new superhuman strength. With his help, the Vikings win and the Scots flee, never to be seen again. The Vikings hail Charlie as their strongest soldier and celebrate for him. Now it almost looks like there could be a rivalry brewing with the second strongest Viking being a leader who's overshadowed, but no. Instead, some evil pirate grunts are spying for the strongest Viking, they pick Charlie, and Charlie accidentally steps on a catapult, flinging him right to them. How awfully convenient to move the plot again. Marla, panicked and wanting to get back, chases Charlie on horseback, and those Vikings? Well, they don't chase Charlie. I figure they just sit at their benches and eat more chicken, because we're not going to be seeing them again, apart from a cameo at the end of the film. You'd have thought a Viking army would want to retrieve their strongest soldier and would come blazing through in the finale to rescue him, or maybe even the Scots would charge in, calling for revenge or something like that, but no. They're just a stepping stone to be used and forgotten. Kinda like a Playmobil toy when you're waiting for your Lego set to be delivered. So anyway, Marla chases the captured Charlie, who's been thrown into a cage into a vehicle, and reaches a giant highway with all sorts of vehicles and mishmashed themes. I actually quite like this mashup, as it felt like the worlds were all connected and random. But as for the sequence, Marla's chasing them up, hops between cars at one point, destroys the livelihood of a guy in a truck trying to sell enchanted hay to pay off a debt, and loses sight of Charlie, who seems to have vanished in thin air. Everyone's upset, especially Truck Guy, whose name is Dell, by the way, and Marla wanders off into the Western world to find someone who can help her. Oh hey, the second major location is a big ol' Western. This really did start off as a Lego movie fanfiction, didn't it? In the Western, the sheriff is busy and everyone else is unfriendly. Dell's there again, trying to sell hay, but it turns horses into Pegasuses with an acid problem. Hilarious. Dell's amused by Marla's plans and watches her attempt to gather a posse. She flaunts some gold coins Charlie won from the battle, and suddenly everyone turns on her. Alright, there's not a lot of good jokes in this film. The wit of the Lego movies certainly hasn't translated too well here, but the best one is probably this one. And it got exposed in the trailer anyway. Everyone in the Western world gives off that standoffishy stare, including the baby and the chicken. Every cowboy now wants to kill her for that money, so her and Dell escape by truck off into the sunset. Changing his mind, Dell agrees to help Marla, given that he gets the money to pay off his debt. Moving over to the slightly more interesting plot points, Charlie has been taken to Constantinopolis, a kind of modern day Colosseum, now with giant spotlights and a big ol' sporty overhead banner. Again, I really enjoyed the set designs of some of these places and concepts, but that's about as interesting as it gets. It genuinely makes me wonder how Colosseums would look these days if they were revived and upgraded with modern technology. But that's not important to the film. So what's going on is our main villain, Emperor Maximus, has captured the strongest of each archetype of character. I mean, he doesn't say it, but it's basically what he's done. He's got a pirate, an alien bounty hunter, a caveman, an Amazonian woman, a ninja, and a Viking. I guess it's the closest the Playmobil could do to having all sorts of trademarked characters. Either way, don't get too attached to them. This film suffers from Sonic 06 syndrome, where there's so many different branches to develop that none of them actually get developed. and they're just not going to do much all film. The ninja even dies immediately after being thrown into a Colosseum match by the big beast we're not allowed to see just yet. Maximus also has a whole song number about his plans, and it's okay, if not a little screechy, but again, it's just not memorable. It just exists. Back to Marla, and to find more help, they find Rex Dasher, a douchebag spy who you don't find, he finds you. And yeah, he just sort of shows up. I guess he's supposed to be a big parody of overpowered spies, but he very much overstays his welcome, and you just sort of learn to kind of ignore him where you can. He's also got this annoyingly repetitive theme tune that's the closest thing to a real earworm you can get from this film, if you count just saying the words Rex Dasher 1,000 times a real song. Anyway, next there's a whole sequence about sneaking through some evil headquarters to get CCTV footage of the vehicle disappearance, and I actually like the joke that prefaces this sequence, showing how it's an undercover evil base disguised as a flower shop. You can't tell just by looking at it, but if you look up to the roof, you see a cluster of satellite dishes, clearly not fitting for a flower shop. There's also a joke about the acronym of Skull, the evil grunt guys, but it's not that great. Great enough to be put in the trailer though, apparently. This sequence is okay. Rex Dasher, being the master of disguise, has Marla pretend to be the big bad evil lady. She gets in and tells the freeze ray people to use more ice on the freeze ray when asked for advice. Hilarious. And eventually she gets her footage and escapes, one way or another. This whole organization never comes back. Big evil lady isn't relevant, the freeze ray is only used to escape again, and there's a throwaway mention joke of a death submarine thing, but that never pops up either. Again, it's just a location to move the plot forwards. Nothing witty, nothing smart. With it all being a big over-the-top parody, there could have been, like, I don't know, some other guy being captured or about to be tortured that Marla interrupts but doesn't save because she's busy on this current escapade or something. An extra little nod to make a parody out of the genre, and being a little bit witty and funny too, maybe. But whatever. They all escape by car, and Rex Dasher leaves the group even though he easily could have stuck around, and is captured by those pirate grunts. Again, just gotta move on with that plot. Meanwhile, Charlie and the gang escape their cell with their one-dimensional character traits of zapping guards, sniffing fish, and pointing at a ship. This is literally the only things most of these guys do. On board the ship, Charlie does the commanding, does it wrong, and they're all recaptured. And that's the whole progress of that sequence. Although not before Charlie celebrates with the very fresh joke of bloody flossing. The floss dance was invented in August 2016. This bloody joke is literally 3 years old now. You literally cannot get more unoriginal and outdated than this. And in fact, this isn't even really a joke. Charlie just does it saying, "Oh, I bet my sister will be proud of me." That's not funny. That's so lazy and boring and idiotic. The CCTV footage Marla obtained show that the villain's vehicle did teleport, as anyone who actually watched the film could have told you 40 minutes ago. And Dell recognizes that it's the work of special tech through the power of zoom and enhance. Turns out the same threat pushing Dell for money also sold that tech. So they confront her, and Dell intends to pay with all of Marla's money. But Marla lied about how much she has. Whoa! Glenara is the evil threat, by the way. She's a Jabba the Hutt ripoff too. Or is this supposed to be some tasteful reference instead? I don't think the movie knows the difference. Anyway, that forced disagreement splits up the two of them because the plot demands it, and Glenara attempts to kill them with a teleporter into some deadly environment. But Marla's dashing looks and kind personality convinces Glenara's servant robot to save them because it's in love. Does it sound like I'm trailing off? Have I been trailing off for like the last 5 minutes? Because the movie very much feels like it's trailing off with another "anyway, this is happening now" event again and again and again. They end up landing in an enchanted forest. Dell storms off and Marla wanders with the robot. The robot is also mostly unintelligible and doesn't do much either. It mostly just falls apart. Don't get too attached to this guy, even though he's like the third piece of the trio, I guess. Charlie and the gang are re-imprisoned, now outdoors, and Rex Dasher arrives to join them. Rex tells of Marla's adventures to save Charlie, inspiring him. Charlie's super strength breaks them free and they escape, with Charlie now hanging back against soldiers for no real reason. This plot sure needs a lot of help to keep going, doesn't it? Back to Marla, and her walking places her right back where she started again. So she throws her passport in anger, which also appeared with her for some plot-related reason. She hits and beckons the fairy godmother, yet another plot device used to make the story continue, granting one wish, or at least a somewhat plausible one. She inspires Marla onwards, gets her out of the forest, gives her a pretty dress, because that's what all the girls need to be happy and to sell merch to kids later on, pushes her to a nearby castle town, tells her that she's already set forward Dell, and gives her a secret gift to help her become who she used to be. This right here isn't just pushing the plot forwards, this is like some kind of roundhouse kick into the right direction. And it really feels wasted. The fairy godmother isn't gonna come back again in the film, and the castle in the distance just exists to be walked through, I guess? I thought this was leading into a trap with how the civilians called Marla Her Majesty, like it was leading to some sort of entrapment wedding that she didn't want, or a cage. But no, just a happy-go-lucky, keep-going sing-song. Like, it could have gone in an entirely different direction by getting some real character development going on, where Marla maybe truly proves herself as being able to do things, rather than just being given magic and going on with it. Like, there's a small moment of her fighting like a knight with a couple kids on the way in. What if it was here that she proved herself as an actual knight and grew herself some help in the form of a knight army to go crashing into Constantinopolis with? But no, she's just given the easy route with a stereotypical girly smile to go forth with. Also, it's at the top of this castle here that we learn that Constantinopolis is seriously nearby. Angle and Ara told them Charlie would be there. Oh, and Marla is given a flying carpet or banner to take her and the robot there. This isn't a roundhouse kick of a plot device anymore. It's more like being hit by a bloody bullet train into the right direction. Of course, the place they teleported to is right next door to the Colosseum, and of course she has a flying carpet. There was a whole element of Constantinopolis being inaccessible due to being on a distant island surrounded by an impenetrable wall, which I perceived as meaning it was in another room to the Playmobil room, but no, it was just over a footpath, across a single body of ignorable water. Wow, everything sure got solved real quick. It's like the film was running out of time after exhausting so much of its resources on a slow live-action opening. Charlie is being held and prepped for the Colosseum match against the giant beast. Soldiers sprinkle herbs and peppers on Charlie to make him tastier. Hilarious. Remember, he's only in this predicament because he decided to stop escaping. Marla's robot partner's one other deed in the film comes in here as he helps Marla climb a tall wall in Constantinopolis. Though wouldn't the flying carpet be able to place her on top of that wall, or even just directly into the Colosseum itself? Yeah, whatever. Marla sneaks in, taking a disguise and using the occasional spy gear, because she's always had that, I guess. The robot is left behind because apparently he looks too conspicuous. Finally, she reaches the Colosseum where Charlie is being thrown into battle against a giant T-Rex, just like the one in real life. Wow. Marla at some point puts on her secret gift from the fairy godmother, a full suit of golden armor. It's Marla's ancient Playmobil OC from 4 years ago, literally who she was 4 years ago. Wow. The two avoid the T-Rex as best they can, but do very little to hurt it, and soon enough, in swoops Dell and the robot, both in truck. We quickly hear in the background that with Dell's wish, he was able to pay off Glenara and fix all his problems off screen. Great storytelling there. And I guess he also managed to get his truck back and find the robot who was just standing in the middle of the Constantinopolis marketplace. Anyway, in the truck is Dell's enchanted hay, and using the super duo cool move the two used back when they were playing with toys in the real world, Marla and Charlie managed to feed it to the T-Rex. The T-Rex becomes docile and flies about, angering Maximus, who calls for the guards, and in come several guards. But instead, it's Charlie's gang, who appear in the Colosseum to just stand around and celebrate, really. The final member, the pirate, captures Maximus and cages him, with Maximus's guards either running away or siding back with the pirate captain, I guess. I mean, what a boring and anticlimactic ending. The T-Rex isn't defeated, just subdued. Maximus isn't killed, he isn't pushed into the Colosseum, and he isn't eaten by his own giant beast. He just gets put in a cage. And there's no real twist here either. With the skull grunts all being pirates, I was half expecting the pirate member to be the true villain of the film, but instead the grunts were just going against the main pirate, but returned to him afterwards, apart from two who chose to die by piranhas instead. There could have been so many more directions for this ending to see. What if the Vikings came pouring back into the Colosseum? What if the Scots showed up? What if Marla invaded with a knight army? Or Maximus was given any real punishment? Imagine being able to see a real fight with all the good guys using their abilities against hordes of guards. Anything to give plenty of characters their proper screen time. time moment. There's a whole giant Coliseum arena for some big action sequence, but all that happens is a T-Rex steps around for a while, eats some hay, and starts flying instead. Absolutely nothing satisfying at all is to be had here. Everyone then also just stands around happy for a really extended amount of time. Del is joyous over people wanting to eat food from his food truck. That's a great joke. I'm glad they kept that one in the script. And eventually, Marla and Charlie ride the Pegasus T-Rex all the way back to the lighthouse. We see several areas beneath them, which I guess is okay. It's a cameo opportunity for those Vikings the film had long forgotten, I guess. Though the Pegasus horses from the Western world, surprisingly, also don't join the T-Rex like you would have thought they would. And Marla and Charlie reappear back in the real world, having only passed 5 minutes of real time, apparently. The Playmobil set around them has moved, and Marla's passport is now filled with location marks. Wow, that's magical! They leave satisfied and happy as a functional family again. Forget the phone tracker or Charlie's phone friend or the whole magical fate element at all. It's bedtime. And it all ends with Maximus escaping entrapment thanks to the IRL guard moving him from the floor, which wasn't where he was in the Playmobil world anyway. And with all that, cue the credits. Yikes. I don't see a sequel coming out anytime soon, not with those scores. This film very much plays out like the career of the Playmobil toys. It flops in comparison to Lego and will always be cast away in its shadow. It was doomed from the very start of its inception, but even then, the directions it chose to take were all wrong. Losing out on the witty humor, the ability to keep any kind of good pace on the film, and just filling the time slot with cheap, poor quality jokes and plot devices to string together something that resembles a plot. The animation is nothing special stylistically and just looks like another generic animated action film with all of the action muted away and avoided by the end of it. I'd be lying if I said that this film really had some potential, but almost every direction it took was lackluster or wrong. The use of magic and fate could have been interesting. The set designs could have been more creative than just archetypes. Though Playmobil kind of cornered themselves there on that front, considering all their toys are bland and basic. And the plot could have been more interesting if it explored something else entirely. What if the Vikings were the bad guys and it was wrong to side with them first? Why does Del have a debt? Actually, I don't really care about that one. What if the castle town was a trap or a chance to grow a knight army? What if the whole fate thing linked into the Playmobil world like a prophecy of a golden knight to appear and take the title one day, like the castle town was Camelot and Marla was a mistranslation of King Arthur? Or what if there is a big bombastic battle with all of the hordes of characters somewhat developed or at least appearing in the film? Imagine if characters were given more development like every member of Charlie's gang or the robot servant. And my god, just stop on all the ham-fisted plot devices and pushing moments. What if Del's truck was later able to be upgraded with the teleportation tech in order to get to Constantinopolis, after discovering the source and outwitting Glenara or something? A cool techie sense of progress and a nice cyclical plot. Way better than just a fairy tale godmother showing up and fixing the world's problems. But ultimately, the Playmobil movie was just not that kind of film. And just from glancing in its general direction, you can tell that from the very start. Really, this was just one big cash grab trying to hit the magic of the Lego movie without any real talent or understanding of what actually made it so good. This was a ham-fisted, unoriginal, and incredibly disappointing example of a modern-day movie title, and I'm glad to be seeing the backside of it. This was fun. Don't come back, Playmobil. And as for you American viewers, do look forward to having this undercooked mistake hitting your big screens ready for Christmas this December. Or just come back to this video to learn all there is to know. Maybe I'll hit that super rare double wave of YouTube views. It was worth a try. Later. And that, at least so far, is the end of our coverage of the terrible rip-off movies. These things will be popping up all the time, I'm sure, in future, so hey, maybe we'll do some secondary compilation at some point, or hey, maybe that 60-episode terrible compilation is looming in the future. Whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed this. And on that note, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this compilation, and I shall see you all in a little bit.